And then I say, no, I want that sticky rice pudding on my face! Oh, the joys of accidental parenthood.
Oh, tell me about it.
Welcome, Tomei, about it. Welcome, one and all, Aunt Tomei. Welcome, one and all, to a Big Damn Cast. I am Jesus of Nazareth.
And I am Jesus of Texas.
And we have naught but joy this week in our hearts, for the most part. Because we're going to talk about some shit. It's part 2 of our Spider-Month podcast nonsense bollocks.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Last week we talked about the Raimi trilogy. This week we are talking The Amazing Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Electro Boogaloo. I'm surprised no one's made that joke before. Then
they probably definitely have.
we are going to talk about our review of the newest Spider-Man movie.
We're not going to review it, we're just going to talk about our review.
Yeah, we're just talking about just 50 minutes of a blank screen.
Yeah.
Spider-Man Homecoming, Marvel's Spider-Man Homecoming, and then we're going to get some spoiler thoughts about that. So if you haven't seen it yet, you don't want to spoil, keep an eye on him. Time code son. And then we're going to talk about the Doctor Who finale, because we can talk about it now, because the last podcast was recorded ahead of it actually going out, so that's why we didn't talk about it last week, and we're going to answer some of your emails, and we're going to have a gay old time, just like the Flintstones. So,
or like, I don't know, Quentin Crisp.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or Ian McKellen on a night on the brandy.
Yeah.
Gay old time.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to go out on. I'd love to go out on the piss with Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart.
I'd love to go out on. I'd love to piss on them. I'd love for them to piss on me. Oh, go on the piss.
I'm not really into like water sports, so. I mean, if that's your thing, fair enough. But it's not.
You shall not piss.
You shall not pass water.
Wizard, see you. Okay.
But first off, we have some sad news and a tribute to one of the great
unsung heroes of modern popular culture.
Not so much a creative in her own right, but certainly the main support behind, one of the architects of the modern superhero genre.
There's an oft-used phrase which is, based on how you feel about it, understandably either irks you or inspires you, but there's the oft-used phrase is, behind every great man, there's a great woman.
And
now, forget all the things that surround that, here is a case of that being a thing. A great woman in her own right, but certainly responsible for his biggest leaps and biggest contributions, and being his inspiration. We lost Joan Lee last week. Joan Lee, model, actress, and businesswoman, and wife to Stan Lee. The reason why I bring up the phrase, behind every great man, is simply because if you think, well, I don't know who that is, like, it's a shame she's gone, but I don't really know who it is. She's responsible for most of your childhood.
Yeah.
Existing, and a lot of the characters you grew up loving being a thing, including, of course, this week's topic, Spider-Man. Like, she was directly a force behind Amazing Fantasy's last issue.
Also...
And the gamble he took.
Well, I think it was more with Fantastic Four.
Specifically, that is her... She is the radioactive spider bite of the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
To put it that way. Stan Lee was working for... They were Marvel Comics by this point, weren't they? They weren't timely anymore.
They were Marvel, but it was all...
it was
anthology titles. It was Tales to Suspense, Tales to Astonish, Journey into Mystery, Amazing Adult Fantasy, and it was... And every issue was like 3 stories about a giant monster or space aliens or...
Cowboys and Indians. Yeah. Sometimes romance comics, they dwindled out a bit toward the start of the 60s.
They were still doing like Linda Carter, Student Nurse and things like that. And then you had Rawhide Kid, Two Gun Kid. The original Ghost Rider was a Western comic without any supernatural elements.
Yeah, but Marvel, when it was timely back in the day, was publishing superhero stuff like they were over at DC's then incarnation. Like they were making... It were DC National Comics, I think? I can't remember now.
I'm not sure. I think DC was DC by that point.
But basically the whole stuff with Frederick Wortham and Seduction of the Innocent in the 50s led to various censorships and interference with the comic book medium, and the comic book code was introduced, and everything became very strict, and couldn't be too fanciful, and everything had to be censored. So Marvel stepped away from superheroes specifically.
Well, I mean, they never went hard into it like DC did. They had
they had Namor, Captain America, the Human Torch.
Yeah, Human Torch. That's about it.
But they still sold those books, Marvel Comics. Yeah. They were pushing those, and then they sort of backed away, and DC stopped for a second and then softened everything and la la la. But then DC started to get a bit bold again toward the late 50s, early 60s. They went, screw it, we're gonna start being a bit more superhero oriented again. Let's do it.
Brave and bold.
And Justice League, I believe, was the title that broke the bank again. People got excited for, because oh look, a bunch of superheroes we know together.
Justice League first appeared in... I think Justice Society had been a thing during the Golden Age.
Yeah.
Then the Justice League, as we know it, first appeared in an issue of Brave and the Bold, which was one of their team-up titles.
Which was it's that famous cover with Starro and Wonder Woman and Martian Manhunter, I think, is it there by that point? And the Green Lantern and Flash. And it's like, oh, cool! That looks pretty sweet. So Martin Goodman, then, owner of Marvel, pretty much, the editor-in-chief, turned around to Stan Lee, who was writing on the monster books and the sci-fi books and the westerns and the romances. He was saying, right, go on, superheroes, we'll do superheroes. And Stan went, okay, I liked that. I think he dipped into Captain America toward the end of its run. So he was like, okay, I'll work for that, but can I make it into... And Martin Goodman just went, no, just whatever, just action. Just give us a bunch of action. That's what the kids want to buy. They want to buy action. Big splash pages, explosions, punching, that. Just give us that. Bunch of superheroes punching stuff. Just make up your own superheroes and make them a group. And it was clear that he saw what direction could be profitable for the company, but he didn't see the potential in the storytelling and the substance. It was all style.
He's a money man.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, it was selling books, and if he hadn't asked Stan to do a team book, then we wouldn't get the eventual thing. But Stan was ready to quit at this point. He wasn't able to tell the stories he wanted to tell. And it was Joan who turned around to him and said, look, write this first issue of this book the way you want to do it. Because you want to quit. So what's the worst that can happen? If your idea doesn't work, or he gets annoyed that you did your thing, he'll fire you. You already want to quit. Just do it. So he talked the ideas through with her and said what he wanted to do. And then he did it. Fantastic Four issue 1 went out. And it sold like hotcakes. Ironically, the hotcakes weren't selling as well at that point, but the book was. It's because people were spending their pocket money on Fantastic Four issue 1.
Yeah, as well they should.
As well, everyone should. And that sort of brought back his confidence and his ability to be able to tell stories. Martin Goodman saw the impact it had and went, okay, fair enough.
Okay, fine.
What do you want to do next, Stan? Just give me more. Give me more superheroes. What do you and the guys in the art team and everything want to do? So the snowball effect began. We get Iron Man, we get the Incredible Hulk, we get the X-Men, we eventually get Spider-Man. Again, Jones' input. Amazing Adult Fantasy was going. Stan wanted to do a teenage superhero. Martin Goodman said, no, teenagers are the sidekicks. No, not happening. Jones said, just put it in that book that's dying. So he did. And Amazing Fantasy 15 sells crazy. They take the word adult out of it. So it's, trying to aim more at kids. It sells amazing. Year later, Spider-Man gets his own title.
It wasn't even that long. Because the next issue of Amazing Fantasy never actually came out.
Yeah. Because that was the end of the title, wasn't it? It was the book was going. The book was going to die.
Yeah.
And that's why she was like, put it in there then. Because again, what's the worst that's going to happen? The title's ended. He's not going to complain.
So a few months later, they turned it into Amazing Spider-Man and relaunched it with number 1.
Amazing Spider-Man 1, one of the most boring covers for a number 1 in comics
They don't
history.
suspect my real power, he says, with his crotch pressed against his glass panel. I wonder what that real power is, teenager Peter Parker.
Even that book used the Fantastic Four to shift the issue. If you'd missed Amazing Fantasy 15, you're picking up the Amazing Spider-Man because it's a new guy in a creepy costume.
They do
and the Fantastic Four on the cover.
One page.
Yeah, there's some. But it's that weird thing of the front cover is sold on the fact the Fantastic Four are on the cover. What a weird parallel universe the 60s is compared to now.
I was rereading some
Reed Richardsing.
Well, I know because I've been rereading a lot of Spider-Man recently because we're doing this Spider Month. But I opened up Marvel Masterworks.
Yeah.
Spider-Man Volume 1. So last night I read Amazing Fantasy 15 and Amazing Spider-Man 1 in bed. Still pretty great.
Yeah.
I mean, like, dated and
They're
primitive.
very snippy and quick as well.
But, like, big bold colours. Especially in those new colour, like, the digital recolours that you get in, like, the modern versions of the Masterworks, like, the more recent printings, or in the Epic collections. Like, oh, man, really gorgeous.
Ditko's take on Spider-Man, like his look, because obviously Steve Ditko, co-creator of the character, like his look is sort of those long limbs, and he's clearly a scrawnier kid than a lot of the other heroes he'd been drawing, and it's such a stark difference. But again, we don't get those bold choices without Joan pushing Stan to do it. Like, in terms of dipping into the mythos, she was part of the business and everything with Power Entertainment. She dipped in and out of performing as well and some of the stuff. Well, I found out this week that she was the voice of Madame Web in the 90s Spider-Man show. Yeah. I'd had no idea. Excellent performance. One of the more memorable like her and Kingpin, probably the two most memorable vocal performances in that show.
2% of my body is fat. So fat. Experience what 350 pounds of muscle can do.
Oh my god, he's bear hugging me to death. Oh, I can feel his erection pressed against my knees.
Because we can't punch people in this show.
We can fire guns, but they have to be lasers for some reason. Oh god. But yeah, so Joan Lee, I mean, obviously it's tragic to lose anyone in your life, but it's significantly, sort of...
Someone you've been married to for that long.
They were approaching their 70th anniversary.
Jesus.
I think Stan's 93 or 94, and Joan was 95 when she passed.
I don't think I'm going to make it to 70, let alone a 70th wedding anniversary. I'm not even married yet.
It's nuts, but they were a team right up to the end. Apparently, she, from what we know, wasn't sick for very long.
I'm not, I might have misread this, but I'm pretty sure one article said that she'd had a stroke.
Yeah.
Passed away shortly after. And
others mentioned that she was surrounded by a family, so it was sort of expected, but still quite sudden. And, I mean, God, the stuff they've been through together, I mean, it's nuts. And just the time and everything they've spent in each other's lives and being a part of each other's world. If you ever see any interviews with Joan Lee, they're definitely worth a watch. There's bits and pieces across the years on things. One I can most notably think of is the 2002 DVD, if you can get hold of it, Stan Lee, Mutants, Monsters and Marvels, which is a 2-disc, 2-documentary DVD set put together by Kevin Smith. One of them is mostly just him sat down with Stan in a comic book store asking him questions. And the other is sort of a bit of a documentary about Stan's life. And there's some excellent stuff with Joan in that, filmed at their home and everything. It's really sweet. It's a big loss. And I hope Stan the man, like, I hope that the creative juice in him continues, because, like, she always strived for him to keep making and being his best. But obviously, our thoughts go out to the Lee family and their business partners and everything at this time, because losing Joan is a big thing for everything involved in their life. So it's sad, but we just want to take a moment to acknowledge Joan Lee, essentially the reason we're here talking about a bunch of this stuff.
Yeah, too right.
So, raise a glass.
Raise a mug.
We'll raise a mug to Joan Lee. There we go. Now, from something, quite disheartening to something quite disheartening.
Oh.
In a flippant, facetious way, but still.
Yes.
We're continuing our cinematic journey of Spider-Man with The Amazing Spider-Man 2012. Matt, tell me where you were state of mind-wise in the run-up to this being a thing.
Pretty excited. Saw that trailer stuff. Was like, that's a good-looking Spider-Man. I think Andrew Garfield's a good choice.
That's a bad outfit!
Yeah. This is not long after...
You're in your pimp outfit, like watching him swing away.
Man, that's a bad outfit! I can't do that. I can't do that voice. I get you in trouble. So...
The one moment in Superman the movie that dates it so badly.
Yep.
But it's still a really infectiously fun moment. It's just like, oh, really?
Infectiously fun, like St. Vitus's dance.
I will buy a drink for any of our readers who get that without researching it. Any of our readers, any of our listeners. Oh no, do you know what? I'll keep it to readers. That way I don't have to buy any drinks.
Hey.
So you were geared. Like, was it Andrew Garfield's casting that did it for you?
Yeah, because he'd just come out of Social Network, which I love, and I loved him in it.
It's a damn good movie.
And yeah, just a fresh take on it. And like early set pics and photos that leaked, like when Gwen Stacy first turns up, Emma Stone first turns up as Gwen Stacy in that movie, and she looked like she's straight out of Spider-Man Blue, with the thigh high boots and the headband, and it's like, jeez. But then at the same time, it being fairly fresh and a new Peter Parker, and I like those Raimi movies, but as we talked about last week, but they are very much of the '60s Spider-Man, and I was always
with a big ham-fisted chunk of the '90s forced into the last one.
But I've always been more of a early 2000s Spider-Man / Ultimate Spider-Man guy in terms of what the material that I really have a reverence for. It's like JMS Spider-Man onwards and Ultimate Spider-Man. So that kind of feel felt like it was a bit more there.
It felt like it felt more.
It felt like it felt more feel.
It felt like a field.
I feel like there was more feeling there.
Strawberry fields.
So I was fairly excited for the movie when it came out. And what about you?
I was not looking forward to it.
Why so?
Well, it's odd because Spidey's my boy. If we're gonna be that basic, making lists and shit, like my top 3 superheroes is probably Superman, Batman, and then Spider-Man in first.
Well, I mean, X-Men are my boys and girls, but I've never liked an X-Men movie in the same way that I've liked the comics.
Fair play.
So.
But with me, it was more a case. I mean, they're all different for different reasons. Like Superman for me was always about the movies as a kid. That was the first superhero movie I was really made aware of, and I fell in love with Reeves' performance. So I've always had an admiration for that character. Batman the animated series and the Burton films made me fall in love. But Spidey was the one who I followed. Like, he was my soap opera. He was the one I bought the comic books of, and I was reading religiously, particularly Ultimate Spider-Man. I followed that along the way. So when they were like, right, we're rebooting it, I was like, why? For rights reasons. Oh, okay. Well, that's a really sort of stupid and shallow reason to do it. But it's going to be sort of a bit closer to Ultimate Spider-Man. I was like, go on. And then I saw the trailers, and that's what finally put me off and settled me, because it was the whole, not the visuals, but the untold story.
Yeah.
And focusing on, why are you really here, Peter? Like, what's the spider stuff really about? Which, when you get in the film, that isn't the angle at all.
No.
The stuff with his parents and the research lasts for about the first 20 minutes.
It's definitely the angle in the sequel. Yeah. Oh boy, is it the angle in the sequel, but we'll get to that. Yeah. But that stuff was nowhere near as important to the movie as those trailers made out.
Yeah. The movie came out at the time I was living across the road from a cinema. So I went with Lucy over to The View, and I think it was the week after its release. We were just like, oh, go on. Let's
go on then.
Go on, let's go and watch it. And I came out pleasantly surprised.
I remember quite enjoying it, at least the first time around.
I was like, do you know what? They abandoned this conspiracy plot pretty early on, and then it just became a Spider-Man movie.
I've definitely soured on it since, though.
I think what we've seen since, plus what came after, has sort of caused that effect. But I will say, having not watched it for a couple of years, watching it again all of a sudden last night to recap for this, I was like, oh god, there is stuff in this I really like.
Well, I got to the point where I got home from work, and I was looking at things to watch on Netflix, and I came across Amazing Spider-Man. I was like, oh, I should watch that because we're going to be talking about it on the podcast tomorrow. And then I hovered over it and saw it was 2 hours and 12 minutes long, and I thought of what that movie was like. And
I don't need this shit.
You know what? Actually, I'm bored just thinking about this. I'm just thinking about this, and I'm already bored. So I passed on that.
I like to call it The Amazing Bland Man.
Yeah.
So let's get into a bit of the reason why the movie exists, and then we'll talk about the film. So
why does the movie exist?
Sony part own the rights to Spider-Man in any medium outside of the comic book.
I think they fully own the rights to Spider-Man in film.
In film, yes. The contract can come to its end. That is entirely possible.
Like what
And
happens
that's
with
why-
Daredevil.
But that's why this film exists.
Yeah.
Because Sony had it was something like a 20-year deal or whatever from 1989, I think it was, something like that. Spider-Man 3 comes out in 2007, and because of that, there's an extension. There's a natural extension to their ownership of the character in the cinema. They've got dibs on him in any medium outside of the comics. Hence why all the animated series were owned by Sony or Sony companies and things like that.
Until Ultimate Spider-Man, I think.
Yes, because Spectacular Spider-Man was cancelled simply because Disney were like, right, sever all ties with the previous version, we're making our own, which sucks because I think a lot of people would have agreed you should have just done a co-production with the Sony Animation House and continued Spectacular Spider-Man.
And also Ultimate Spider-Man kind of sucks.
Yeah. Sucked. Past tense, it's gone.
Is it gone now?
It's finished, and Marvel Spider-Man is up next, and the footage of it looks absolutely dreadful.
They've not got their head round this animated series business, Marvel, have they?
No.
Not since Earth's Mightiest Heroes.
The reason it looks dreadful to me is I've seen the preview clip. They're doing what they did with Earth's Mightiest Heroes, where the origins of some of the characters, or in this case just the main character, is playing out in these little shorts online before the show starts. And Peter Parker in it is just loud and obnoxious. He's the kid who they ask the science question, and he's like, it's like, no, that's not him.
No, because there are elements of that in Andrew Garfield's version of the character, which I don't like. I mean, I like his performance on the whole, but when he veers into that sort of
when he's not on the whole,
that I'm like, actually, I'm not so keen on this aspect of it. But for the most part, I like his characterization.
But that was a conscious decision. They were like, we need to do something. Sam
Sam
Raimi was going to do Spider-Man 4, and the studio pressure of number 3 had really put him off wanting to do another, but there was a story he wanted to tell. As far as we're aware, it would have featured the Vulture played by John Malkovich, Felicia Hardy played by Anne Hathaway, at first as Black Cat and then the Vultress.
The Vultress, that's a thing, isn't it?
And rumour was that the film would have opened with an in-progress crime scene sequence featuring Mysterio.
What's your favourite bird, Chris? Is it a Vultress?
God.
Is that your favourite kind
The
of bird?
fourth movie would have opened. As far as I can tell, it's because she just sort of joins him in a heist or whatever, so takes on the tech, and they came up with a name, New Goblin, for some reason.
It's a shit name.
But apparently it would have opened with a sequence, a mid, set piece, something I've always wanted to see in superhero films. We've talked about this before we recorded. I want to see scenes that show that they deal with supervillain shit all the time.
Yeah.
Because in the movies, like Spider-Man and X-Men and all this, it sort of makes it look like they just deal with it once every 2 to 3 years. But it would have opened with a sequence with him in the middle of dealing with Mysterio, played by, can you have a guess?
The man with 2 chins. Well,
worth of
one
chin.
really big
2
chin.
chins worth of chin.
2 chins in a 1 chin bag.
Yeah. Bruce Campbell was going to be Quentin Beck in the opening, which I would have loved.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that would have been really cool. Studio interference, behind the scenes, money, budget, this, that, and the other. It was just getting to the point where Sam Raimi went, do you know what, I'm walking. And Tobey Maguire went, well, if Sam's not going to do it, I don't want to do it. And Kirsten Dunst went, oh, fuck.
She was like, oh, thank God, I can stop now.
And then go on to do... So, the movie ceased production, and Sam Raimi basically turned around to them and said, and he said this in an interview since, I know you've been working on a plan B. Just do it. Do your plan B. Because it turns out they had already been working on a potential reboot in case 4 didn't happen. Which says that they either wanted him to bugger off and they possibly wound him up to the point where he did bugger off and they could claim more control. Because those 3 movies are very much his, apart from the third one, which has more interference in the production.
Yeah, and it shows for the worse.
And aside from what Mark Webb does as director, Amazing 1 and 2 are very much movies made by Sony committee, and he's been told, you just keep it ticking over, yeah? And he tries his best to get his voice in there, but he doesn't succeed as much as Raimi does with the first 2, but blah, blah. So, the reboot's put into production. It had to come out by 2012 for Sony to retain the rights to Spider-Man on film.
Mm-hmm. So,
lo and behold, 2012, The Amazing Spider-Man comes out. It's been 5 years since the previous version, and I was like, no. If you're going to do it again, fair enough, but wait. It didn't strike me at the time that 1997 was when Batman and Robin came out, right?
Yeah.
Was it 97?
Yeah, 97.
So Batman Begins, a reboot of the Batman franchise, didn't come out until 8 years later. Even then, when Batman Begins came out, the way they sort of advertised it was, oh, it's like the prequel. It's a prequel to Batman.
Yeah, because
they didn't make a thing of saying it's its own thing. It's just, this is how Batman became Batman.
Because in Batman, 89, he's already Batman.
Yeah. So we just sort of assume going into that movie marketing-wise that, oh, right, so this is how he becomes Batman in general. Okay, fair enough. By the end of that movie, you realise, oh, this is its own story. Like Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Oh, it's like a prequel to Planet of the Apes. Unless you've seen the series, in which case you're like, no, that isn't how it starts. It's a time travel thing with them going back. Whatever. But like, you watch it, and then by the end of it, you're like, oh no, it's its own thing. Oh, right, okay. And that works.
And David S. Pumpkins is...
part of it! Any questions? So, Amazing Spider-Man just felt too soon to me. But in retrospect, I guess it wasn't. Die Another Day, 2002. Casino Royale, 2006. 4 years.
Not soon enough.
Now, with James Bond, there was a precedent of, well, every now and again we change up the actor, but when you watch Casino Royale, again, it's like, oh, this is like starting from scratch.
Yeah.
Okay,
His
fair
first
enough.
assignment.
But with the confusing choice of having M be played by the same person.
Well, you know.
Really weird. But anyway.
Parallel universes.
Oh my god, the James Bond parallel universe theory!
Oh!
Ties in with the Pixar theory. Oh god. So I wasn't excited. I saw it and thought it was okay. Now, the film's hook, to try and make you think that it was worth seeing the origin story again, was you don't know all of it. You know the spider by Uncle Ben, but there's more going on here.
Oh god, are they going to do the spider totem? They're going to look at the mystical origins of
Do you know
Spider-Man.
what? Had it
and his
not been for
animal-
Turn Off
animal
the Dark, I think they would have attempted that. Because Turn Off the Dark doesn't use the totem, but it uses the goddess Arachne and the idea of destiny and the web of the story being woven.
As I said in my recent Big Damn Love video, I get that people don't like the spider totem idea, but I really
It's a fascinating
like
idea. I like it if it's done like that, where it just pops up in a couple of stories.
Yeah,
if it's got stories about it, I totally dig it.
It's like there's a thread, that's why most of his villains are animal themed, because they're like sort of unconsciously trying to become avatars of whatever totems their animals are.
Like, why would Kurt Connors get to the point where he doesn't know if it's going to work and inject himself with the lizard serum?
Exactly.
Surely he'd go a bit further, unless unconsciously he's filling that role in the totem.
So it's more of like this.
Why would Octavius create a harness that looks like octopus arms? Like, he could just create, a mechanical arm or a rig. No, because subconsciously trying to fit into the totem.
Yeah.
I think when you do
in the same
the
way
one-off stories like with Ezekiel,
I think
that's what
makes his rogues
like
gallery
the
so
other
strong.
works
as well.
on its own.
Yeah. But what makes his rogues gallery so strong? As I say, I think Spider-Man's rogues gallery is almost the equal of Batman's.
Yeah.
Because in the same way that Batman reflects his villains and vice versa, I think Spider-Man often reflects his villains and vice versa. It's particularly the ones that are, the working class street level Joes who found tech or gotten strange powers, and
your Shockers, your Electros,
they've set out to use them
Scorpions
for nefarious means, while he's set out to use his for different. Looking after the little guy.
The little guy.
Looking
after the little guy. The little guy.
But Rob Schneider isn't in this movie, so
It's Rob Schneider.
looking after the little guy.
Are you looking after the little guy?
Deuce Bigelow 3.
Looking after the little guy. So, Amazing Spider-Man sort of sold you on the premise that there was more to the story. Comic book fans were like, oh, they're going to go tell Richard and Mary Parker being spies or something like that. La 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 la.
I'm not sure about the
it's like what an oddly
Richard and Mary
specific thing
Parker
to
thing
pick
in
on.
the comics. I know there's things that happened with them, but I'd never really read that bits.
I read that far into it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they're going to do an Ultimate Spider-Man thing where it's like Peter's dad was involved in sort of a few too many scientific things. Because in Ultimate Spider-Man, I can't remember if it's answered by the end, but it's definitely suggested that their death was not an accident.
Yeah.
Because of all the stuff he's tied into, Hammer and Roxanne and AIM and the Venom suit and all these things. blah blah blah. But you go into the movie and that kind of dominates the first half hour of the film.
Mm.
And then by the end of the basic origin of Spider-Man, it's been forgotten. And then the rest of the movie, like the last hour and 20 minutes of it, is just a Spider-Man movie.
Also,
with the lizard.
Did we need that origin all over again?
Yes and no.
No, we didn't.
I'll say yes and
No,
no,
we
because
didn't.
I'll say this. Had the movie come out, say, 10 years after Spider-Man 3, I'd be up for it. But 5 years, it's odd. Now, looking back at it now as just, this is just another version of the Spider-Man story. Do you know what I mean? Like going to your library, going to your movie library and going, oh, there's the Raimi versions, or we can watch the Mark Webb versions, whatever. Like, when you look at it in that way, uncoupled from remembering it at the time and how soon it was, it sort of works. Again, like Batman, there's no explicit origin in the Burton ones or whatever, but, you get the basics, and then you watch Batman Begins, you don't think of them anymore as like, oh, we already know this. You think of it as, oh, this is their version of it. This is their version of it. But at the time, God, it was way too soon.
But also,
and future filmmakers learned from that mistake, luckily, which we'll get to later.
Yeah.
Let's talk. Let's do the basic surface level shit. Let's talk villains. We've got Earth and Khan as Guy, who is the Demo Goblin in the comics, but in this is not.
Let me pull up the cast list.
We've got the Burglar, who's not a burglar, and he's got a tattoo or something.
That famous Spider-Man character, the Burglar.
The Burglar.
Look, a burglar for my movie. The Burglar.
We don't get a wrestling match, but we do get a very brief appearance of a wrestling ring, and that's what inspires him to sort of mask up and create a persona. It's so weird, man.
It's so weird.
He goes after the burglar, and the burglar has a very specific description, and he ends up basically beating up everybody who fits that description.
Irfan Khan plays Rajit Ratha.
Okay.
Is there a name for the burglar, or is it just the burglar?
The burglar!
The burglar!
And of course, the main villain of the piece is Raimi reject, poor Dylan Baker.
Poor Dylan.
Dr. Kurt Connor's the Lizard, who's tied in directly with Peter's dad.
And in this, he's played by Rhys Ifans.
Who has a damn good go at it. He's sort of given some decent stuff to do in the first half of the film, then generic villain rambling for the latter
Although
half.
there is that weird moment where Peter goes to visit him at his house, and for some reason that scene is just really poorly dubbed.
Yeah, that's
the sound is like out of sync with what's going on.
It's the first time they meet.
Yeah. It's really strange.
There's also deleted scenes. I don't think they're on the Blu-ray though, but there are deleted scenes with Martha and Billy. Yeah, because they don't appear in the film.
No.
They don't make an appearance in the movie, but why would he have a family home sort of further out of town in a nice sort of countryside area?
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
so they get into that. But he does okay, considering what he's given. What do we think of the look of the lizard?
He needs more of a snout. It looks too human.
Yeah, but they give him that curved mouth, so he almost looks like he's got this creepy smile all
He
the
looks
time.
like a fucking Super Mario Brothers Goomba.
He does! Oh, shit!
No one
Oh
wants
my
to
god,
remember
shrink
that
his
movie.
head and it looks oh my
He
god.
looks like a fucking Goomba.
Although I will say, I do think he looks pretty cool, that brief attack where he's wearing a coat. Like, he's got a big coat on over everything.
Yeah.
It's only for a moment, and it's a beige colour, so under the lights of the shop and stuff where he's attacking, it briefly looks like a big lab coat, and it's like, there he is, there's
Why
the
can't we have a
lizard.
big lab-coated lizard?
Considering the second half of the movie, his plot is basically, I'm going to turn everyone into lizard people.
Because so he can go to a big glowy thing in the sky and...
So Connors... Oh god, yeah, that was one of the movies that started that trend, isn't it? So Connors wants to grow back his arm. That's his personal goal. But the research he's doing is being funded because Oscorp, who are hiring him, want him to create some cure stuff for an apparently ailing Norman Osborn.
Whose face we do not see.
You know, we see like a silhouetted backlit graphic at one point.
Yeah, this huge light-emitting hologram in the middle of the Oscorp lobby. This hologram which is made of light and emits light, but his face is in shadow.
Yeah. Because we haven't cast him yet!
Because we don't know what we're going to do with the next movie.
Oh, God. So his personal goal is to grow his own arm back, but to do that, he's got to play ball and create a cure for Osborn. So that's his plot, essentially.
What happened to his arm?
I don't think they ever say. I'm not sure. He says he's a southpaw, and they all have a giggle, and then he moves on. That's pretty much it. I'm trying to remember in the comics. Did he lose his arm because he was originally? Is it because he was a physician during the war or something? I'm trying to remember now.
Maybe
that might have been an Ultimate. Maybe.
You know what I'm gonna do? You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna look that shit up.
I thought you were gonna take a dump.
Yeah.
Take a big dumps.
Yeah.
He was a war doctor.
The original version was a war doctor.
Okay, so he's a medical doctor.
Yes.
And a scientist. Whereas in this, he's just got one arm. I don't mind the look of the lizard. I do agree it would be nice for him to look more lizardy than...
He needs a fucking snout!
Or like to mutate as the film goes on. So give us the round-headed version or whatever by the high school fight, but then sort of during that fight have him sprout something out, out of his back, like he starts to get, the spine or whatever.
Yeah, so
and then by the end he's got
iguana.
more of a... Make him evolve as the film goes on.
A Komodo dragon.
Yeah. I think the visual effect is cool. I think he never looks bad at any point.
Oh yeah, it's a good looking effect. I'm not a fan of the design.
There's a really nice bit where he's in the corridor on the bridge at the high school, at the bridging corridor, and Spidey tangles him up like a spider.
Yeah. They do a really good job of making Spider-Man move in a more spidery fashion in this.
Yeah,
the
way he dangles and the way he sort of crawls and scuttles.
Or the way he goes in the sewer and he builds that web. And then he just sits on it waiting for the vibrations.
Yeah.
That's actually what a spider does.
That's Spider-Man could do whatever a spider can, just doesn't feel like it today.
In this movie, he shows off more of his scientific mind. He builds his own web shooters.
Yeah, Raimi took a shortcut with the original just because he wanted to focus on the adventure and the romance.
Yeah.
So that's fine, and Peter's clearly clever in the originals. He shows off his knowledge. But in this, it's practical application. We see him making shit and figuring shit out.
Speaking of romance, how do we feel about Emma Stone's Gwen Stacy?
That first film, those two, very watchable.
They are very watchable.
They're very watchable. They're very, very sweet together, and you can totally see why Peter has a thing for Gwen.
Beautiful people.
The best people. You can't necessarily see why Gwen would have a thing for Peter.
No.
Aside from he's kind of cute and clearly is smitten by her.
He's kind of a dick, though.
He is.
He's kind of a dick.
Now, Andrew Garfield was a lifelong Spider-Man fan. The role was really important to him. He said it a lot in interviews. And he seems quite sad that it didn't work out the way he thought it was going to after the films have finished. And obviously they're not coming back, those versions.
Let's talk about Toby's tears, eh?
Yeah.
What about Andrew's crying face? I was Spider-Man in bad movies.
Andrew's Anguish.
Andrew's Anguish! Oh!
But at the same time, you can tell he went in wanting to tell great Spider-Man stories. It was a character he grew up absolutely admiring and being in love with and getting the messages of.
I'm in love with Spider-Man.
And instead he was handed some subset Transformers bullshit to deal with, basically.
Yeah.
And he didn't get to tell the story. Now, he tries his best. His Spider-Man is a lot more like Spider-Man than the Spider-Man of the previous Spider-Man movies.
In the suit, wisecracking, never shuts up.
Yeah.
All over the place.
Clearly talking to distract his enemies and himself from how terrified he is.
Yeah.
But also has lovely moments in both the movies where he sees that someone else is afraid and talks them down and makes sure that they feel okay.
But out of the suit, Peter's just kind of a dick.
Yeah. It's weird. And I believe that was a conscious decision. I remember an interview near the time they were talking about how, nerds nowadays are different.
They're cool.
Their thing was. They're
nerds are cool.
You can be nerdy without being, a dork and a stereotype. You can be nerdy because he's a bit of an outcast and everything. But he's a skater. People approach and talk to him. There's a girl in the first one who sort of says, it's Peter, right? And he's like, yeah, and he's been putting photos up on a school board or whatever. She's like, I really like your photos. He's like, oh, thanks. She's like, I was just wondering if, you were free this Friday? And he goes, yeah, sure, because, of course, that's how you act. Just lots of pauses and stutters. And
Yeah,
he
yeah.
goes,
No, sorry, I can't come out this Friday because this is actually 21 Jump Street, and I'm 33 years old.
Christ.
And I can't fraternise with high school girls because it's illegal.
But he gets older. They stay the same age.
Yeah.
Is that Dazed and Confused?
Yeah.
But, so yeah, yes, they do. So she goes like, she's like, yeah, I can, yeah. She's like, great, because I wondered if you could take some photos of my boyfriend's car, like, sort of anything different. And she's not being nasty or mean or anything.
Yeah,
and he sort of reacts like, oh, right. So the way he acts isn't sort of, oh, I thought she was asking me out. It's more like, oh, so you're not asking me out then? Okay. And it's really odd. It's like, Parker isn't a player. So I think this Peter is aware that he's a handsome guy.
He kind of is in the comics, though. I suppose retroactively, but like, it's one of those things that
in his 20s, Spidey, absolutely.
But as things have gone on, you find out that literally every girl he went to high school with had a crush on him at high school. Liz Allen had a crush on him at high school.
Because
he snags Betty Brant while he's still in high school.
Because afterwards, they've grown old enough to realise it's not about like getting with the popular kid and all this. They're like, Peter was a really nice guy. Like, he was a good-looking guy. He was a really nice guy.
Jessica Jones had a crush on Peter in
high school. She did, yeah. Read your books, kids. New Avengers, right?
Yeah, she talks about that anyway. You find out...
Yeah, because Luke Cage gets a bit weirded out by it, doesn't he? He's like, wait, what? It's like, what, you two? He's like, well, we're never a thing. It's just, I totally crushed on him. I think they talk about it in Pulse, because he reveals who he is, I think.
I think it's in New Avengers, because I think it's post-Civil War, when they're hiding out in Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Because it's before One More Day, because everyone knows who he is.
Yeah.
Because after One More Day, everyone forgets who he is.
Comics are
weird! But we'll talk about that next week.
Yeah. So, like, I don't know, he just seems a little too confident. There's some nice moments where he interjects when Flash is bullying another kid, and like his confidence there sort of is played in a really believable way. It's sort of played in a way to establish that these two have known each other for years, and he's just like, stop being a dick. Like, he calls him Eugene, which is nice to hear in a movie. So there's that. But it's like him and Gwen have clearly sort of been around each other for maybe longer, but this movie's where they're sort of really talking properly for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Their chemistry is really fun to watch in that movie. I'm worried that the reason why we remember that movie a little more fondly might just be down to watching their chemistry. Yeah. Because when their chemistry is written for in the second, it doesn't play as well as it did in the first one, where there's clearly a bit of Mark Webb's encouraged just some improv between his young cast members. Do you know what I mean? And also, they were falling in love during that production. They became an item by the end of that film.
Also, like,
so there's a natural chemistry going on there that's being captured on camera, which is hard to recreate later when they're actually a thing and doing all right.
Also, what you've got to remember is
comics are weird.
In general, that second movie is not as well written as the first.
Too true.
Not that the first one is a masterpiece or anything, but it's solid, you know?
Yeah.
It's solid. But the second one is a fucking mess.
It's a train wreck, son!
Let's dig into The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Should we leap into it?
Let's leap into it.
Well, let's leap in via segue of Martin Sheen. Martin Sheen, who appears only as a different actor's back of a different actor's head in the second one, but Martin Sheen was a decent replacement for Cliff Robertson in terms of recreating the Uncle Ben character. He's a believably likeable person, but he's having to not say the same thing. Especially Peter. Like, he doesn't even, like, if you have the ability to do good things, or whatever, you have a moral obligation to do those things. Yeah, or you could word it better with great power comes great responsibility.
But no, you can't say that because he said it in the last one.
Yeah,
but redoing this origin.
So his message is convoluted. It's there, but it's not quite the same, and it carries on into the second movie. He has a moral obligation to do those things. What is nice about Amazing Spider-Man 2 is Peter Parker is, from the beginning, clearly is in the swing of things, pun intended. He's Spider-Man, he's happily Spider-Man, he's doing like the small stuff and the big stuff like all the time, like he's dealing with big threats and little threats. The city, for the most part, really likes him, even though it seems the Daily Bugle wants to smear him. Though we still don't get any J. Jonah Jameson aside from an email with the subtitle "Wrong." But we know that he's got a relationship with them because he's selling them pictures.
Yeah.
So there's that. What else? Sally Fields dutifully as Aunt May again in the second movie. Her role's odd. It's almost like after the first half of the first film, they don't really have anything for her to do.
No, just sort of be Aunt May.
And then they sort of try to force more Aunt May into the movie the second half of Amazing Spider-Man 2 by showing her working at a hospital and showing her being worried about Peter thinking too much into his dad's past and la 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 la. But the bag comes back, doesn't it, in number 2?
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of the problems lie.
Hang on, I've just realised something. Hang the fuck right on. In the second one, like the calculator and all that, where does he get them? From the bag?
Yeah.
The bag's empty in the first film, apart from a photo of his dad and Kurt Connors. It's empty.
Does he not have a bunch of
Because he says, why did you ask your dad told me to look after it? Why? It's just like an empty old bag and stuff. And that's when Ben says, that bag is how your mother and father met.
No, wasn't it?
They met because she was working at the shop. She sold him that case.
And
that's how they met. And that's why he said keep hold of it, because it's important to them. But in it, there's just a photo of Kurt Connors.
Is there like a secret compartment in it, though? Which has like,
you'd
has the files
be able to feel a freaking weight of files and a calculator.
A calculator full of coins!
It almost sounds like they didn't know what they were doing.
No, listen. I will not sit here and let you imply that Amazing Spider-Man 2 was poorly written.
So just outright say it?
Yeah, we need to outright say it.
Amazing Spider-Man 2!
Amazing Spider-Man 2 is fucking terribly written. Like, it's just... Oh, man. It's just a mess.
Tell me... Right, so here's the bottled plot of the first one. Spider-Man origin story, plus Kurt Connors regrows his limbs, starts to turn into a lizard and decides that everyone needs to be lizards because then they'll all be superior. Tries to set off a big beam chemical gas thing in the sky to turn everyone's lizards. Fails. Gwen Stacy's dad, Captain Stacy, played by Dennis, should have been Jameson in this franchise, Leary, dies and makes Peter promise that he won't include Gwen in his life. And then Peter breaks the promise. That's the plot of number 1. What the fuck is the plot of number 2, Matt?
So.
A needle pulling thread.
A needle pulling fucking teeth.
Ouch!
So.
Just like chip away at the base.
Spider-Man has graduated from high school at the age of 27.
But hey, I know that guy.
Hey, I know that guy. Oh god. Right. So Peter and Emma Stone. Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy graduated high school, starting college. Gwen Stacy's still doing her work at
Peter and Emma Stone.
Peter and Emma Stone. Her friends call her MS. She's still working at Oscorp. And
sorry.
And basically, I can't make this plot basic. Right, so a couple of different things are happening.
Aye.
Actually, several different things are happening at once.
Yeah.
So there's this guy called Max Dillon who's an electrical engineer at Oscorp, and he helped build a lot of the city grids, but he wasn't given credit for it. And then he's a bit strange, and Spider-Man saves his life, and he gets obsessed with Spider-Man, and then he falls into a tub of electric eels because they sent everyone home, and and no one likes him. And then he becomes Electro because he fell into a tub of electric eels. And these are genetically modified eels in the same way that the spiders were genetically modified by, as we find out, Richard Parker.
Richard Parker!
Sorry,
it had to be done. It had to be done.
To help cure Norman Osborn, who is dying of some sort of degenerative disease that turns him into a goblin.
And now played by Chris Cooper.
It turns
and not a black-faced hologram in shadow.
It turns his skin green and he's got really long nails and he's all dying. So because he knows he's dying, he brings back his son, Harry. who coincidentally used to be pal around with Peter Parker. I don't know how those two social circles interacted at all. But when they were kids, but then he got sent away to boarding school, and he leaves the company to Harry as he dies, and then so he dies, and Max becomes Electro, and Harry starts to reconnect with Peter, but then he realizes he has the same disease as his dad. And then stuff happens, and Jamie Foxx's Electro is all Electro-y, and he's got voices in his head telling him that people are his enemy.
Voices that sound like the Magnificent Six and Pharrell for some reason.
The Magnificent Six and Pharrell are in his head, telling him that this is everyone. That Spider-Man, he shot at me. He lied to me.
Yeah.
He hates on me.
Hates on me.
He hates all over me.
Hates
all
on my face, neck, and chest.
All coming. Peter is like seeing the ghost of Emma Stone. Peter's seeing the ghost of Dennis Leary, who was Captain Stacy in the first one and died at the end, everywhere because he was all like, "You gotta keep my daughter out of this crazy business that's killed me. I am now dead," because that's what happened in the comics. So he's seeing...
Wait, you're saying a character died because it happened in the comics and that's the only reason why they died?
Yes.
Cool, put a pin in that, carry on.
So he's seeing Captain Stacy everywhere, looking at him disapprovingly, and in his head he's thinking, "Oh, you boinking my daughter, you're gonna get her in trouble with your spider business." So with the Dennis Leary ghost, he's putting Peter off his game, so he splits up with Gwen at the beginning, and then they instantly get back together again.
Yeah, 20 minutes later. God.
I say 20 minutes later. It was more like an hour later because this film is so fucking long. And yeah, so Electro wants to get Spider-Man because voices in his voices in his head literally told him that Spider-Man's a bad guy.
Yep.
Harry Osborn wants to find a cure for this disease, and he thinks Spider-Man's blood is the key because Richard Parker was. Oh yeah,
who? Because who?
Richard Parker.
Richard Parker.
So this stop. So this. By the way, this movie starts with a flashback to the murder of Mary and Richard Parker.
Based on which ending you think is canon? The attempted murder. Richard and Mary Parker.
So,
how many laptops does he have?
He only has one.
Sony Vaio. Oh, that's weird, isn't it? Isn't it weird? He's got a 2014 desktop in a flashback set in 2003.
He loves uploading stuff to satellites.
God, he really
in the middle
does.
Of plane crashes.
He really does.
This movie's not fucking good. It's just. How long did it fucking take me to explain that?
You still haven't even said the whole thing.
I know, I've not even got to the end yet.
Tell them about the spy at Oscorp, who we don't know is a spy, apart from the fact that they mentioned in the press that she was a spy because they were setting up for a future movie that isn't going to happen, at least in that continuity anymore.
Yeah, Felicity Jones playing Felicia.
Felicia Hardy. They never say Hardy, she's credited as Felicia.
Yeah.
And they say Felicia a few times. She's Norman's personal assistant, who's now Harry's personal assistant, and she knows the secret shit.
Also...
And they said in the press around the time that, she's playing Felicia Hardy. And those who know who Felicia Hardy is will probably be thinking, well, what's she doing there? Well, what about Deep Cover? And also Amy Pascal at that point had a movie with the working title Glass Ceiling, which would have featured Silver Sable and Black Cat, which is now actually going to happen, set in the not MCU, called Silver and Black.
What
but basically,
is that
Felicity Jones,
about, though?
Felicity Jones, and probably BJ Novak as Alistair Smythe were signed to this movie, probably with the promise that you're going to be in at least one of the film and get to do exciting shit. That's what was going on there.
That's the thing as well. Electro becomes Electro.
Yeah.
Ends up in Times Square. Gets upset and goes after Spider-Man because he thinks Spider-Man betrayed him.
Yeah. Who's the person who led to his immediate accident?
Alistair Smythe sends him into that fucking basement to fix that cable and get chomped on by eels, which they later imply was deliberate.
Yeah.
Because it becomes the Max Dillon experiment.
Yeah.
Although, to be fair, that might have just been after he was imprisoned in Ravenscroft.
But still, like,
but
Oscorp
still-
know what's happened to him, so they're
Yeah.
trying to cover it up and then experiment on him for, like...
He never goes
Ugh.
after Smythe.
No.
This guy who's a total dick to him, and you see he has a fantasy about beating the shit out of Smythe.
Yeah.
He never goes after him.
Isn't it weird that's the only moment in the movie where they sort of show that maybe he might be a violent person?
Yeah.
Just that.
He's clearly unhinged.
But has a high-paying, as we assume, very technical job that requires him to be a very intelligent engineer in a highly respected, very expensive research facility in the middle of New York. Yet they haven't psychologically vetted him. Do you know what I mean? It's like, what is this? The fuck is it? Let's talk about the actors. I don't want to talk about the characters, Matt. I want to talk about the actors because I want to know how you feel about them having to go through that movie.
All right.
Let's talk about Sally Fields. Do you think Sally Fields is like, oh, thank God I'm only in a couple scenes? That'd be the feeling. They give me one nice dramatic scene, they give me a couple little comedy moments, and then they give me a bit of a montage action scene of dealing with hospital stuff.
That dramatic scene where she's breaking down and she's like, "You're my boy, you're my boy."
Yeah, she's like, I hate your dad. Like,
beautiful.
I know that's wrong, but I hate your dad because of what, like, he left you.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, he left you. Like, that's some good shit. Like, that's some good stuff. It would have been fun to see, so like Rosemary Harris deal with a scene like that. And the other ones, like, it's
Sally
quite
Field
cool.
is an Academy Award-winning actress, so you know.
Yeah. You like me.
You really like me.
So
I do
there
really
is
like
that.
him, to be fair.
Yeah. That was weird though. So yeah, there is that.
Yes, it was.
How about Jamie Foxx as
Jamie
Max
Foxx?
Electro Dillon.
Jamie Foxx is properly going for it. Like, properly going for it.
He's been given a very specific thing he has to do and probably no wiggle room. And he's going for it.
Mm.
It's still a terrible performance. But I think it's the same as if you... Here's my comparison. Al Pacino in Jack and Jill. That's Al Pacino, man. That's Al Pacino. But guess what?
It's Dunkachino.
It's Jack and Jill.
Yeah.
Nothing can be done. And even that, the Dunkachino sequence, which is a parody, sort of that is referred to as piss take in the movie, although it's still a bloody bit of marketing, because it's still technically marketing Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
Even that is terrible, even though he's obviously playing it for comedy, it's still just uncomfortable and horrible to watch and witness.
Mm.
That's Jamie Foxx in this movie. Jamie Foxx is a talented guy. I could watch Jamie Foxx act in anything forever. I adore watching him on screen.
He's pretty great.
And, I mean, I watched him play a bad guy last week. I watched Baby Driver. He's a very bad man in that. And he's scary, he's intimidating, he's frightening, he's unpredictable. He can play bad guy. But what's happened here is they've gone, right, we want to write a character for Jamie Foxx. I want to write a bad guy. Oh, I know. Do you know what I watched last night? Says Alex Kurtzman, I imagine. Let's just pin the blame on him. Do you know what I watched last night? What's that, Alex? I watched the first 5 minutes of Iron Man 3 and the first 40 minutes of Batman Forever. I'm just going to write a Guy Pearce, Jim Carrey mashup, and that's what Jamie Foxx is going to have to play.
Oh, that's not going to be good for me.
Surfs up, big kahuna.
Oh, man, it's so... This movie has tone problems up the wazoo. Like, the original... The first Amazing Spider-Man has problems in that I think it has tonal issues. It doesn't know... No, it doesn't. I'm getting ahead of
It's
myself.
Spider-Man through a Twilight movie fan filter.
It has tonal issues in that I think it's a bit too... I don't think it's fun enough. I think it's a bit too self-serious. But it's consistent.
Yeah.
It's a consistent level of self-serious. Amazing Spider-Man 2 is all over the fucking place.
Yeah, it's goofy 1 minute, it's serious the next, it's like clearly sort of a teen angst drama 1 second, then it's a family-friendly action flick,
and like it's
later.
not like the tonal problems don't come from like Spidey fucking around in the suit and his quips. Like that's tonally consistent.
Yeah,
it's with things like the portrayal of Max Dillon, the portrayal of Dr. Kafka, the portrayal of the Green Goblin.
Or as we referred to him before, the man who's probably got 3 people sewn ass to mouth in the room.
He does look like he's just come off the set of the Human Centipede. Like,
Norman Osborn, who is a dying old man who's also an evil dying old
he's
man.
an evil dying old man.
Harry Osborn, who's a sad little rich kid, who's then a psycho.
An evil, sad little rich kid.
Which is weird. Like, just... Oh, God.
People do things in this movie for no good reason. And they don't do the things they should do.
I'll tell you why they do them. The majority of them. I'll tell you why the majority of them do what they do. Sequel bait.
Yeah. There's a lot of setting up stuff in this film. But as we were talking about earlier, they were writing this movie not knowing what they were going to do next.
Yeah.
So
They knew they
were
had to hit X, Y, and Z.
They were just
And that's it.
scattershot, setting as much up as they could, like throwing shit at the wall. Almost literally in this case. And to see what stuck. None of it stuck.
Mid-credits of the Amazing Spider-Man, Dr. Connors is visited in the Ravencroft Institute by... and we know it's the Ravencroft Institute because in the Amazing Spider-Man 2 game adaptation, part of that story is going... Oh, no, not that one, sorry. The first one, part of that story is going into the Ravencroft Institute to get Connors out to help you with something. Because the Amazing Spider-Man game for PS3 is set after the Amazing Spider-Man the movie. Just after. Ravencroft features in this, and it's so heavily hammered in that it's basically an Arkham knockoff. It's kind of nuts. But the hatted man visits Connors in the mid-credit scene in Amazing Spider-Man 2 and is like, "Did you tell the boy about his father?" In this one, that hatted man is named. He's Mr. Fierce. Do you know what Mr. Fierce is? Because I fucking don't.
Nope.
Mr. Fierce, as far as I know, is an allusion to a criminal, like a one-off character from a novel.
He's just started to appear in the comics.
Has he?
Apparently he turns up in issue 4 of Civil War 2 Kingpin.
Okay.
But he's in 2 Sinister Six novels.
Right.
And he's apparently the brother of the person who killed Richard and Mary Parker.
Fucking Christ's sake.
He's some sort of, like, criminal setter-upper.
Harry knows him, somehow.
Yes.
Or at least is aware of him being attached to his company. And he and Harry are the only two people, aside from Felicia, by the end of this movie, that seem to know that there is an entire special projects floor underneath Oscorp, featuring a bunch of experimental chemicals and technology, including a rhino mech suit.
Because what's that for?
Mechanical tentacles with sentience.
What are they for?
Giant wings. And based on the graphics during the end credits, a shield with a lion face on it, a blank metal mask, and I think the other one that's alluded to is something else, I can't remember what it is. Oh, scorpion tail.
Yeah.
So they're suggesting that they've got a bunch of tech that will create Spider-Man villains.
Also,
oh God,
in a deleted scene,
yeah, the head of Norman Osborn, preserved and seemingly alive, like the end of Psychoville Series 2 with the Nazi. For fuck's sake.
Deep pull. I like it.
Deep pull, son!
So very cruel.
It's just so fucking pointless. Let's hit on a couple of the main points, shall we? Harry Osborn, a lot of balls, Dane DeHaan, can be a great actor, but in some movies he can be freaking terrible, and this is one of them.
He's just a little fucking snotbag in this.
The Green Goblin is once again a mech suit. Again. This time one that heals whoever's wearing it, apparently.
So you seem to have
I have a big problem
able to get
his
your head
entire
around
journey
this.
in this is, my father died of a disease that he never found a cure for, and all of the experiments, all of the Richard Parker stuff, apparently, over the years, and the Connors stuff in the first movie was attached to trying to find a cure for diseases, including Osborn's, yeah?
Yeah.
Harry's disease is apparently accelerating. As soon as he's sort of gone through puberty, it's starting to like hit him even harder than it did Osborn. With Norman, it took him years for it to completely deteriorate.
But I think Norman says to Harry, it hit me at your age.
Yeah.
It started for me at your age.
But we see him, like, in the research videos and stuff from his past, he's not, like, visibly suffering. And
in the stuff with Richard Parker, he's on a cane and he's shaking.
Yeah, but he's not got big blotches, and he's not... I'm saying is he's not Goblin at the age of 18. Whereas with Harry, it happens within the case, like, in the course of, like, a month. And...
It's narrative.
So what I'm saying is it's a thing they don't have a cure for.
Yeah.
Yeah? And yet, Harry injects himself with the spider sample, thinking that it will, like, give him amazing healing and strength like Spider-Man. Like Spider-Man. Which we'll get into that again in a second. But it does that, yeah?
Yes.
And it doesn't. It accelerates the mutation. Like, it gets 10 times worse within seconds. So he climbs into the mech suit that apparently is for healing and protection, and it begins to heal him according to the computer readout.
Yes.
He goes all nutso and crazy during the fight, but afterwards we find out that the disease comes and goes. Now, at this point, it has physically deteriorated him. Like, he looks different, his skin's weird, he's covered in scabs and pus, and he's got fangs instead of normal teeth, and all this stuff. And yet we're now being told, oh, no, it just comes and goes. I'm sorry. I'm really fucking sorry. This thing that you don't have a cure for, that the entire apparent story of your father's life was trying to find a cure for it, you're telling me this mech suit can hold it off? Bullshit. Now, if if it wasn't a mech suit and it was, here's a thing your father used to spend like days at a time hooked into because it would hold it off, then I'd believe it. But they don't. It's a military mech suit.
I think it happens because he took the venom.
But that doesn't make sense either, because there's a suggestion, a very small, but there's a suggestion that maybe the whole reason the spider bite did to Peter what it did to him is because Richard Parker tampered with the formula so that Osborn could never use it for what he was intended. Which means the reason why they're still researching spiders currently is because they're trying to work backwards to figure out how to make it work.
I thought the way it works is that Richard, the way it only works on Peter is because Richard Parker used his own DNA to modify the spider.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So but he's also done that. Like, he knows that Osborn won't have a blank slate to work from because all they can recreate is what Richard left it as.
Yeah.
So that's why they've still not found what they need to, and that's why they're still researching, because they're like, oh, fuck, like, the Parker DNA is a part of this, we need to work backwards. But they never say this. We're coming at these theories with a comic book fan mindset of, well, maybe that's why that does this and this does that.
And it's never explained.
No, and it never will be. And it never will be. Now, there's an alternate ending to this movie where instead of the Rhino fight, Peter's at Gwen's graveside in the film. Peter's at Gwen's grave. Time goes by, and he's grieving and he's grieving. He's mourning, and then he eventually sees that, like, the Rhino mech suit's loose and all this, and he accepts that, Christ, no, do you know what? I need to be out there. I need to help people. So he gets back in the suit, and he goes out, and he goes to fight the Rhino, and we hit the end credits. There was another ending, where he's at the graveside, and eventually is approached by Richard Parker, who is alive, undercover, sporting a beard, and confesses that they had to think I was dead to protect you.
Sorry, Chris, I'm just going to smother myself with this pillow from your couch, because that's how this movie makes me feel.
Now, had they a clear direction... oh, God, he really is. Had they a clear direction... He's twitching. Had they a clear direction... Oh, he just voided his bowels. I guess he's dead.
No, I just couldn't hold it any longer.
Oh.
Ugh. Fragrant, that.
Oh.
Nice and warm.
Now, had they said, like, oh, we have a third script, we know exactly where we're taking this, that, and the other, then I'd be kind of interested in that, because I'd be like, right, what's the angle? Is Peter's dad going to come back now and finally explain everything? Like, No, of course not, because they had no idea. And they clearly didn't have an angle, because they filmed that scene, and then they don't use it.
Hey, they shot an entire subplot with Shailene Woodley as Mary Jane, and cut that.
Yeah, and none of it exists to watch either.
And it's already a long fucking movie, so where was that going to go? Like...
It's a long film full of lots of stuff, and yet it feels like nothing happens.
It's a long and very boring film.
Are there any highlights at all? I like his interactions with citizens of New York.
Yeah, the kid whose science project gets broken by bullies, the stuff with the firemen.
Yeah.
His attempt
the stuff with the policeman.
Yeah.
His attempt to talk Max down.
Yeah.
Like, he's not going to fight him because he can see he's scared. Obviously, he can see that the danger is presenting.
Yeah.
He can see that he's frightened and confused. So he tries to calm him down. His banter with civilians in general is really quite sweet. The heist bit at the beginning, him trying to stop the truck, is decent, apart from one thing that really annoys me, which is, like, Alexei Sensievich! Because apparently he has to scream his name to make all of us nerds get a boner and jizz in our pants.
Yeah, he's the Rhino, everybody.
Rhino fan is the Rhino. Apparently, like, he's totally fine with the Rhino shooting out the window, and in the background you don't even see a consequence. Like, it'd be decent enough if you saw, like, a sign getting it. Like, he shoots and seeing like a sign shatter or some glass shatter or something.
Yeah.
Because at least then you go, oh, no one was hit, thank God. But instead he just fires out the window. I'm like, well, that's really flippant. What if this guy fired out the window and killed people? Spider-Man didn't stop that. Why is he not webbing the gun out of his hand? Or I don't know.
Yep.
The suit.
The suit is nice.
Is the most... We figured out it's the most comic book accurate one. It's
Yeah.
the comic book suit on screen. It looks gorgeous. It's skin tight, but there's still some material, so it ripples. Like, the eyes, finally the big white eyes. And it sort of takes the spider design from the Raimi movies, sort of, and makes it bigger, and it's still clearly made of sort of the same material as the Raimi ones.
Rubberized, neoprene.
Less so
That's
much
what
as
I
the
do.
first Amazing film.
Yeah, because I'm a nerd, a comic book nerd.
I hated the suit from Amazing Spider-Man
I didn't hate it.
at the time. Now I quite like it. But I prefer the Amazing... When you see the Amazing Spider-Man 2 one, you go, oh, that's what it should have been.
Yeah.
So much better. All the best. The very best. Suit in the world. Before we crack on, I should have weird noise in the room, so I'm just going to quickly check out what that was. But, Matthew, please.
Yeah.
Overall summary, rounded up thoughts of the amazing movies.
The Amazing Movies are, in some ways, an interesting attempt to update the Spider-Man mythos. But they come too soon after the Raimi movies to really be relevant. They repeat too much of the same ground. They don't... I think they really suffer from coming out around the same time as Marvel's MCU stuff. It was really kicking into gear. Because the way those movies treat their characters and their world building and their setup for future films, they do it really well, and Sony try and ape it, particularly with Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah.
And I think, I think I've said this before, it's like Iron Man 2, but bad.
Yes.
Like, and Iron Man 2 is like probably, I think it's probably the weakest MCU movie, because it's baggy with exposition and setup.
Yeah.
But it's still quite fun, and that setup pays off in future movies, big time. So, I can forgive that. But even without the future payoff, like, it's fun. Like, it's a fun movie.
Yeah.
And I think both the Amazing movies, but particularly the second one, take themselves way too seriously.
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah. But in that way that teen angst sort of movies take themselves seriously. You just look at them and you go, really? This is what you're getting worried about? Before we move on from Amazing, let's just touch on one last thing. Death of Gwen Stacy.
Yeah.
The actual moment itself, I think we could agree, is quite shocking and brutal and sad to see. But it's not earned. It does, like, it's a case of they did it because she died in the comics, so we'll do it. But it doesn't happen the same way. But there's the Green Goblin and she falls. Those are the only sort of actual similarities to her death.
Yeah.
They make a very big point of, like, Peter. You could argue that all of this, like Peter's life and the superhero stuff and everything, contributed to her death, but they make a big point of it being her choice to be there, and it's like they're removing the guilt from him a bit. Like, now, with him being our protagonist in the comic books, that was a very effective storytelling choice. Because she falls from the bridge, like, seemingly unconscious. He catches her with a web, and there is a snap. He pulls her up, her neck is snapped. And the Goblin is like, oh my God, did you kill her? And Spidey then eventually pursues the answer of, like, was she already dead? Because she wasn't moving as soon as he arrived. She wasn't moving. He needs to know, did he kill her, or did Osborn? And Osborn has made a point of going, I am never going to tell you. I want it to eat away at your soul forever. You know what I mean? It's like, she was a pawn, but you could have possibly got her out of this. That's the main tragedy. It's like, he could have saved her, but what if he'd actually killed her?
Yeah.
What if it was all his fault? That's the tragedy, and with him as the central character in the comics, that's where that comes from. In these two movies, the main character's Peter, yes, but it's almost completely equal billing between him and Gwen. So, they make a thing of her going, I choose this. And it's really weird. They make a big moment of it, of her saying, like, no, I choose to be here. And then she dies 5 minutes later. It sort of robs part of what makes life after Gwen as horrifying, in reflection.
Yeah.
Because she is gone at this point, so her story has ended. It's all left, it's the impact of what's happened to him in that moment and going forward. But in this, it's just an unfortunate accident. So he couldn't have prevented her moment of death, but she wouldn't have died if she hadn't stuck around. So it's on her for being there. Do you know what I mean? It's weird. It's odd. Like, in making her more of a bigger force in the story and more important in the overall story, they've robbed the effectiveness of why it's so tragic after the fact.
Yeah.
That's not to say, like, oh, the female lead should only exist to further the male lead story. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it as, two equal human beings. They're a big part of each other's life. But it's like, well, if she hadn't been there, she wouldn't have been in that scenario and wouldn't have died. And you could say, well, she needed to be there because she hooked up the thing that took out Max and la la la. And it's true, but, like, we don't know if that was the only solution to deal with Max, and you don't have to write Max being there into it, and, like, there could have been a different way to take him out, surely, and la la la. I don't know. All I know is a lot of people go, oh, it's so good because it's like in the books. I'm like, that doesn't make a thing good.
No, faithful and good are not the same thing.
Yeah. Let's talk about faithful and good sort of being balanced relatively decently. Let's talk Homecoming, son.
Spider-Man Homecoming?
Son!
Alright, so we're gonna go no spoilers with our initial thoughts, and then we're gonna get into it and spoil it before we do your emails. So
deep dive into it. Son!
Check the time codes, but we'll give you a warning when it's coming up. But, non-spoilery thoughts. Spider-Man Homecoming's really fucking good, dude.
It's pretty great.
It's really good.
It's pretty damn great. Spider-Man Homecoming is a 2017 motion picture, the first entry into the Marvel Cinematic Universe from the joint work of Marvel Studios, Walt Disney Pictures, and Sony.
What?
Sony cracked a deal after The Amazing Spider-Man 2 flopping like a motherfucker,
Like
critically,
all over the
and
place.
also not making back enough money based on their projections.
It made back its budget, but I think they spent
Word of mouth killed it.
its budget
So
again on marketing. So
word of mouth killed it from profiting the way they wanted it to
they
profit.
pushed that movie really hard. Like, it was everywhere.
Yeah.
And it just didn't do that well.
I find that so odd that when you have a bankable franchise, why would you market it to that degree?
Because,
like, sure, you can make money back on toy sales and things like that, but why would you market it to that degree if you specifically own it because you know people will come anyway?
Because movie studios don't respect their audiences.
That's true. That's very true. Bye, Jingo.
So, that's why.
Which is why Sony have a stranglehold over Spider-Man. So Disney and Sony have a chat. Sony are willing to push ahead with Amazing Spider-Man 3 and a Sinister Six film and a Venom film regardless.
Mm-hmm.
But Marvel throw them a bone and say, hey, look. You can either rush and continue to make stuff, because I think now what they've got is like a 5-year deadline. Like, they need to have a project in the works every 5 years or renegotiate. They're like, look, tell you what, we'll renegotiate if you want, or let's make something special. You fund, you profit, and you release another Spider-Man movie. But we'll be the people who make it for you.
Give us creative control.
Yeah. Now, Sony still have the final say, which is very evident when it comes to the marketing for Homecoming. Audi commercials, anyone? Friggin' NFL commercial, anyone? NBA commercial, anyone? I gotta go watch the game with Mr. Stark! God. So there's that.
Yeah.
But. That's the weird thing, actually. Sony have always tied Spider-Man in, marketing-wise, to a car company. You know, that thing Spider-Man loves to do. Drive. Huh? Although there is a fun sequence with a car in this movie, but it isn't like a, look how good this car looks in this sequence. It's, this thing's getting fucking told.
But we'll save that for spoilers.
Yeah.
Not
So,
a big spoiler, right?
there's no big spoiler, it's just Audi in it. There's Spider-Man 2 flop, so Sony strike a deal with Marvel and they go, okay, we'll do it. His first appearance is in a Marvel movie. And this is how it's going to work, basically. Sony will get 100%. I couldn't believe this at first, but Sony get 100% of all the profit of the movies they distribute.
Yeah.
They get a cut of the movies Disney distributes. This shows you how much money Disney is making and how much they value the inclusion of the Spider-Man character. Sony got something like 5% of the overall gross of Civil War, which is way too much, but just for including Spider-Man. Because Marvel are like, go on then. Like, come on, let's do it. Fuck it. If this is what it takes for you to let us play with one of our own toys again, we'll do it.
And I think Spider-Man's one character that you should make that sacrifice for because
he's Spider-Man.
He is the heart of the Marvel universe.
Yeah,
like really,
he is.
He's
the relatable everyman. He's the awe-filled optimist. He's the childlike innocent, and at the same time, the one who has to like really get stuck in. Like he can't rely on his military training. He can't rely on his technology. He has to work hard to find solutions to what he's doing, and it's the most admirable trait of all, like the persistence and the drive to do what's right. So Spider-Man Homecoming is a movie distributed by Sony, owned by Sony, and the final say is by Sony, but it's been made by the folks over at Disney Studios and Marvel Studios, Kevin Feige and all of his guys, with Avi Arad and Amy Pascal sticking their beaks in, but you know. And as such, it's a big gamble. There hasn't been an alliance like this with major studios for a long time.
No.
And it's paid off. Spider-Man Homecoming is the first kid-friendly superhero movie in the MCU. Obviously, the rest of them are made with families in mind, but this is the first one that is aimed, I would say, directly at the kid audience.
You reckon?
I think so. Like, obviously, the marketability, like Iron Man, kids really were drawn to Iron Man and everything because of the armors, but like no kids watching Iron Man and going, "Oh, I love it," because of the way that all the scenes are clearly constructed and well put together improv conversations between. Do you know what I mean? Like they're not looking at it like that. They're not looking at it because I love the whole international espionage and the intrigue of Obadiah Stane trying to have Tony taken out so he can acquire different rights of the business.
I love his big bald head.
They're coming out of it. And going, the Obadiah Stane, big bald head. Dress up as your Halloween costume for your kids.
I love Jeff Bridges.
They come out and going, "Oh my god, the armor's so cool." This one, it's like, "Oh my god, I'm in school.
I'm in high school.
Oh my god, I have crushes. Oh my god, like I wish I had a really cool secret, like I was Spider-Man." Do you know what I mean?
Oh my god, I want to build a Lego Death Star.
Yes, you do. We're in the money. That was like Disney's one bit of product placement for themselves in the whole movie. Did you notice? Everything else was companies that either are owned by.
There's a bunch of Star Wars stuff in Peter's room.
Oh yeah, but I mean, there are either companies that are owned by or work with Sony.
No, yeah.
And yet there was a C-3PO toy, a Vader toy, and a massive Lego Death Star, which was a plot point, like featuring in the movie. It's like, there you go, Disney. Here's another summon. That's for you, baby.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose you could argue the appearance of like Captain America and a Thor and Hulk Halloween masks and things like that as well. But Spider-Man Homecoming is the story of Peter Parker 2 months after the events of Captain America Civil War. He's got this really cool, like, teched up suit that Stark gave him in that movie. He's stopping tiny minor crimes around Queens, which again, like, none of his stuff took place in the big city, really. We didn't get any big swinging sequences. It was like, it's the suburbs. He's a street level hero for sure in this one. Like, he's swinging.
He helped some woman across the street and she bought him a churro.
Yes, she did. Hey, the Spider-Man from YouTube, right? Yeah? Do a flip. Woo! That's pretty good. He's sort of itching for the next big mission. It seems that Stark is almost reluctant to bring him into everything because he's like, well, he's just a kid. Like, I believe in him and I think he can do some good, but I'm not calling him anytime soon. But Happy Hogan's been left in charge of Jon Favreau returning to play Happy Hogan. Has been left in charge of sort of like just keeping an eye on Peter and also moving all of the tech out of Avengers Tower because they're now officially moving into the revamped upstate facility from Age of Ultron and Civil War and Ant-Man.
Yeah.
They're moving there full time now. Meanwhile, a bunch of tech, ever since the Chitauri invasion of New York and Avengers, a bunch of tech has been acquired, stolen, or redirected, tampered with, turned into weapons, and sold on the black market by Adrian Toomes and his group, who were basically, blue-collar construction guys working in New York. They got a city contract to clear up the Chitauri invasion. Like, they bought new vehicles and new equipment to deal with it all.
Hired new guys.
And then Damage Control come in and go, no, we do that now. Damage Control, of course, not being funded by S.H.I.E.L.D. in this, or the American government, but being funded by Stark Enterprises.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, Tony is profiting from the destruction he writes. Not like in a way where he's sort of going, woo ha ha ha, but in a way where he's like, we'll clear it up and we can obviously research and look into all this stuff.
Also, damage control. We get damage control.
We get damage control. So Toombs and his lot feel like they've been shafted, and after keeping hold of some of the tech they salvaged, turn it into a business. Several years later, they are selling black market weapons, and they're all doing it because they feel like, government and big businesses are shitting on them. So immediately, you've got a very relatable villain. And not in a like, oh, he's got a heart of gold or thingy kind of way. You're just like, yeah, like, if I had the chance to look after my family, like, and secure my future, and screw over the people who've replaced me, I'd do that as well.
Yeah.
Like, fuck it, this is great. So Toombs, complete with a big old set of tech wings, is vulturing around, like, picking up tech. He's got some guys working for him, including a couple of dudes who like Crossbones' electric gauntlet.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm the shocker. Oh, I shock people. So you get freaking the Shocker, you've got Phineas Mason's, the Tinkerers there, helping create the new tech and weaponry and everything.
But he's not an alien in disguise.
No, well, as far as we know, but no, he won't be. But yeah, it's like, so they're doing a certain amount of jobs until they can call it a day before they get caught and provide for their family. So Peter's trying to take down these guys from their thievery, whilst also trying to impress Tony Stark and prove that he should be on the Avengers, whilst also trying to keep his social life as intact as he possibly can around Liz, a girl he fancies at school, Ned, his best friend who discovers his secret, as we see in the trailers, who then has to sort of like explain to them, no, we can't use this as like credit for stuff, despite the fact Ned happens to drop in front of everybody that Peter knows Spider-Man!
Yeah.
What? So yeah, there's a whole thing with a party and homecoming dances coming up, and there's worrying about getting dates, and their quiz teams like going to Washington DC, and like Peter's like, do I go or do I stay here in case Mr. Stark needs me? It's a movie about a teenager trying to juggle his social life, his own little secrets, his school life. Sounds awfully familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's like being a teenager.
Yeah.
It also sounds an awful lot like a Spider-Man story.
Yeah.
Because it goddamn is.
It's a Spider-Man story. And
Now,
it's a great one.
I think it's the first Spider-Man story where you do have to have the required reading before you go in. It isn't starting from scratch. You could get the gist. You will be fine if you have a passing familiarity with the basic concept of Spider-Man. You will be fine. Because this ain't no origin story, bruv. It's an origin story about Peter learning more about who he is as a person.
It's Spider-Man early in his career, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's like Spider-Man Year 1. If you've seen Civil War, and you don't know anything else about Spider-Man, but you remember that cool kid from Civil War, you'll be totally fine as well. Because this is where they jump in with you.
I think they do a good job of recapping everything as well.
Yeah, they never
Without
outright say what
retelling
happened
well.
to him, but they suggest. You get the gist. You get that he was bitten by something that gave him powers,
Yeah.
and he's trying to, like, become a crime fighter and live up to the heroes he idolises, like Tony Stark. And he's obviously getting frustrated about it. Non-spoiler thoughts. Tom Holland.
Great.
Really
Looks like
good,
a kid,
right?
for one thing.
Looks like a goddamn kid, because I think he turned 20 when they were making this movie. Like, he's a young kid.
Looks like a kid, acts like a kid, great physicality. Just wonderful performance, I think. I really like Tom Holland in this.
Like, Tom Holland is Mirror Universe Andrew Garfield in that they are both people who care deeply about the character and wanted to do it justice. The difference is this time, he's been given a script and a director who gives a shit.
Yeah.
Not to say Mark Webb didn't give a shit, but he obviously was guiding the process. This time it's part of the MCU where they have taken great care to make sure the essence of the characters they're adapting is very much there on screen. So Tom Holland definitely benefits from that.
Yeah.
And he brings so much like enthusiasm and charisma to the role.
Oh, the kid's energy. The kid is just a bundle of energy.
Oh god, like he's up for it. And the fact that you know as well that he's in that Spidey suit, like that's him.
Yeah.
As much as humanly possible, that is him. Because he's playing the part. I can't remember the actor's name, but Ned Leeds.
The actor's name is...
He's just credited as Ned, isn't he? I think. Maybe Ned
Jacob Batalon.
He's great.
Oh, he's fabulous.
He could great, but he doesn't. It's so, like, the measure of his performance and the character's sort of, quips and butting in and everything could be irritating. They never let it get that far. It's so carefully measured.
Do you think, without going into spoilers yet,
Yarb.
that Robert Downey Jr. steals any of this movie?
No?
Exactly. You get
That
this is a cast of young actors that are so good and engaging that Robert Downey Jr. walks onto screen and doesn't overshadow them.
No. I think the best way to describe it is the Civil War scene in Peter's bedroom with Tony Stark and Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Carries into this.
Yeah.
It's a battle of wits. Like, they fit on the same plane. He isn't there to overshadow. Now, the way there is a bit of overshadowing, but not like in a performance. It's not like he comes in and takes over the scenes. Yeah. It's because Peter idolizes Stark. So you just get that sense when they're in scenes together that Peter's like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm talking to Tony Stark. And that does the job of, oh my god, Robert Downey Jr.'s in this movie. What it
avoids really nicely, which I think a few people were worried about, was like, whenever Robert Downey Jr. walks into the screen, it becomes an Iron Man movie. And it's not that at all.
The Iron Man armour does rock up in the movie on 2 occasions.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice because it's sort of the design of the last few ones, like the Mach 42 and the Mach 43 and the Mach 45. But the colour scheme is the colour scheme of Ultimate Spider-Man, which is a really nice touch. And it also looks like it's a suit that's like one of those that he just like keeps in vehicle to just leap into and go as well. So it's it's the basic suit and everything. What else we got?
How do we like Michael Keaton?
Keaton's Tombs is excellent.
Do we think he's
definitely
one of the better, if not the best villain we've had in an MCU film so far?
Yeah, because again, like I still believe that I would like to see some bad guys who are bad guys, like just baddies, like who enjoy being a baddie. We've not really had that yet, apart from maybe Loki and Avengers. We've not really had that. But I don't have a gripe with it in this particular instance because his Tombs, like he is a guy who cares about his family and cares about doing the right thing by his family. Yeah. He feels he deserves what he's owed. Like, he's owed thanks. Like, he worked his arse off, and it's like, the thanks he's got is nothing. So it's living out the fantasy of, fuck it, I'm gonna take what I need then. He's clearly having fun doing it, but he's not a bad guy. When he threatens to kill someone, you believe that he's gonna kill them. But you also believe that he wouldn't do it if he didn't have to. If he didn't feel he had to.
Mm-hmm.
Which is nice. There is a scene where he argues with one of his team and does something a little permanent to them, thinking it was going to be something a little more temporary.
Yeah.
So they sort of paint that, he'd rather not be doing something, deadly, but if he has to, he's going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So he is a villain, but he's not a muhaha villain. But I'm fine with that because he's so intense. It's Keaton.
Oh man, I fucking love Keaton.
I think what happened is John Watts and Kevin Feige sat him down and said, "You want to get nuts?
Let's get nuts."
And Keaton said, "Come on, let's get nuts."
Let's get
Vulture
nuts.
is terrifying. When he's in the suit, he's a force to be reckoned with. Scary stuff, especially in the third act. Well, the first time Peter encounters him is a terrifying moment.
Oh, yeah.
It's horrifying to see. Supporting cast, the characters, like we said, like Ned and Liz,
I love all
Michelle and Flash. Yeah. Like, they're great. Like, they're all part of the decathlon team. They're all academics.
Well,
Flash isn't a jock bully. He's the dickhead, intelligent, rich kid. That's his angle this time.
They didn't really make it explicit in the film, but they mentioned it in like interviews and stuff, where it's like Midtown High, as it was in the old comics. That kind of school doesn't exist in that part of New York anymore.
Yeah.
What does exist, though, are magnet schools, which are specialised, like, schools, in this case, a specialised science and technology school.
Science and tech is the angle that they lean on further than other stuff. Yeah.
And that bring in kids from further out in New York into the metropolitan areas.
Yeah.
Just to study and get education and stuff. So that's why they've got an academic decathlon team. That's why Flash isn't an athletic rival anymore. He's more of an academic rival to Peter. He's just a really asshole rich kid.
Yeah.
Like, snotty fucking dickhead.
DJ Flash!
Oh, man. It's Tony Revolori who is Zero in the Grand Budapest Hotel. And he's fucking wonderful in this.
He's great. It's one of those roles where for him it's just a case of like, as with a lot of the ensemble, but it's a case of we show up, we say some really great dialogue, we have some nice back and forths, and we just hang out. And you get that sense from all the interviews. Like, a lot of the cast for this, the interviews have been the younger cast members just like sat on the couch.
Yeah.
and they have such like chemistry and such a good time.
I think they're really and like they're all modern like updated versions of those characters, and to some point where really it's only the name that's the same.
Yeah, well, like Ned isn't Ned Leeds really.
No,
aside from the fact that he's friends with Peter. Like, they're what do you call it? They are colleagues in a sense. In this case, it's because they're on like the same teams and the decathlon and everything.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously in the comics, it was more like they work together at the Bugle and stuff like that.
Yeah, he was a rival for Betty Brant's affections.
Yeah, who is in the movie?
Yes.
Betty Brant is on the school news channel, which is freaking wonderful story to find. But that's nice because that's setting up that she might one day work for the Bugle because she's obviously a journalist, wants to be in journalism and stuff. So there's that. Ned is based a lot more on Gank from Ultimate Spider-Man.
The Miles Morales leg. Ultimate
Spider-Man. The idea of him having a best mate who knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Which is acknowledged twice in the movie. There's a nice little nod where a character's alias is listed as Brian Pacelli, a nod to Brian Michael Bendis and Sarah Pacelli, who obviously worked prominently on the Miles Morales era, Ultimate Spider-Man together. And they're in the credit with special thanks to, there's like 5 names, and 2 of them are Brian Michael Bendis and Sarah Pacelli. So it's like, yay! Ultimate Spider-Man, specifically the Miles Morales era, has sort of informed how this version will go. Yay! Marissa Tomei is Aunt May.
She doesn't get enough to
do, but what she does do is sweet, and you can see that they do adore each other. Yeah. There's that lovely sequence where, like, he's got a date for homecoming, and his first instinct is to come home and go, May, what the fuck do I do? Like, I need your help. Like, I don't know what this is. So, like, she helps him figure out, like, what to wear. She obviously doesn't know how to tie a tie, so they're sat there watching YouTube, learning how to tie a Windsor knot together. She shows him how to dance. So what's quite nice is sort of only a brief bit of, like, formal dancing. And then it's just sort of like, she's like, come on, groove. Like, just have a dance. It's nice. They've given her, like, you described it before as, like, her waistline keeps going higher. She's always wearing high-waisted pants. It's like they're trying to swallow like a bloody bell plant. It's like they're trying to envelop her from below.
We've got to try and make Marissa Tomei not look smoking hot.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that multiple characters comment on how smoking hot
That's
she
the
is.
one gag that didn't sit with me.
Yeah,
because I was like, that only works if you know what Aunt May's normally like in the other media.
Yeah.
It doesn't really work in this movie. That's why it worked really well in Civil War, because audiences who are familiar with Spider-Man, like, see that and he's like, you're a surprisingly hot Aunt. Like, the audience are all thinking, yeah, she's much younger than we know her to be normally. But although I do like when stuff, like, toward the beginning there's a bit where they're leaving a video message for her, like him and Stark, sort of as an alibi for him being away during Civil War, and he said, take one of the alibi is like, hey May, hope you're alright, I'm wearing something skimpy, and he's like, sorry, that's inappropriate. It's like, yeah, it is. That's his aunt you're talking about, you creep. But like she's sort of given like little things to do, like sort of the stuff she's doing is quite housewifey in the traditional ways. It's sort of like trying to make it be like, look, see, she's sort of old school, Aunt May. She's cooking meatloaf, and do you know what I mean? Like the whole she's one step away from banana bread, and like they give her the sort of these round glasses that sort of age her face up a bit when she could probably wear a different pair and still look her age and everything, and. There's little touches like that sort of in your head reinforce that this is still the same Aunt May. This take is just younger because why would why would her sister have been several generations below her?
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for her to be that old.
Yeah,
as she is in the original comics.
It can work. It can be that May's the older sister of Mary, but they've made that choice of, no, do you know what? They're closer in age and that works better. So Aunt May in this is meant to be, I guess, her early 50s.
Well, I imagine she's the same age as Marissa Tomei, who
late 40s.
She's 53.
Damn, really?
Yeah.
You got her on screen there and I'm just sort of slightly distracted. Hi, you're pretty.
She's 53 years old.
What eternal spring is she tapping into, and can we get summon?
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh god, there she is, Aunt May. What a weird thought. That's Aunt May.
That's Aunt May.
Now, here's the thing. Like, I think the most effective Aunt May portrayal, really, in terms of what we've had so far and going forward and everything, is always going to be Rosemary Harris in the Raimi trilogy.
Well, she's 60s Aunt May.
Yeah, but. In this revamp, everyone's a bit younger in this version of Spider-Man. Marissa Tomei's Aunt May works really well.
But it makes sense for her to be in her early 50s when Peter's high school age. Like, she's not, like, unreasonably young.
Last point before we go into spoilers, because I want to talk spoilers more, trucker. Tell me about Happy Hogan, Matt. Happy Hogan's inclusion in the movie.
Oh, like, I love seeing Jon Favreau on screen,
Yeah.
especially in this role. I feel like he's sort of my spirit animal because he's a grumpy bastard. He doesn't have time for no bullshit. And I love him.
He's been left babysitting.
Yeah. And
And
he's just like,
really annoyed about it.
fuck's sake! That's what he's like. That's what my inner monologue is most days. And that's what Happy Hogan's inner monologue in this movie is. As wonderfully played by
Jon Favreau.
Jon Favreau.
I think last non-spoiler note really is...
You said that about the last one.
Yeah, I know, but I think this is important to get out for people who haven't seen it.
Put it away.
What's nice is this movie isn't about an end-of-the-world scenario.
No, the stakes are really...
Small. Like, the set pieces are big and exciting, but it's not beams shooting into the sky.
I wouldn't say the stakes are small, but the stakes
not...
are in scale.
Yeah, well, it's not, put it this way, they're not dealing with the people who are going to do horrible stuff with the weapons.
Yeah.
They're dealing with the people who are selling the weapons. So they're stopping stuff at the source, which is nice. This is like your first act of an end of the world story, but it's the whole movie,
Mm-hmm.
and it works really well for that. Great cast, great writing, very reminiscent of John Hughes, complete with a blatant reference at one point that might be a little too on the nose for some, but it made me chuckle.
Only if you've got no sense of humour.
Yeah, great version of the Spider-Man suit.
Yeah,
both of them. Or maybe more. And it fits firmly in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is a Spider-Man for the MCU, but at the same time isn't swallowed by it. This is the kid looking up at the grown-ups table of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
It reminds you it's part of that universe often, because if you were a 15-year-old in this world, you'd be paying attention to the shit that was happening on the news and on social media. You'd be going, oh my god, like... You guys have seen the Hulk, right?
Yeah.
I saw this video on YouTube. It's this big green monster. How cool is that? Like, oh my god, do you remember that time when we were kids and we were looking out over the Brooklyn Bridge and Manhattan was being smashed up by giant space whales? Yeah, of course we remember that. Like, it makes sense that they would be looking up at the Avengers world and it would be referenced more in this than, say, in Doctor Strange and stuff like that.
Spider-Man
because
Homecoming.
These are kids growing up in this world.
It's a movie which very nicely encapsulates what happens when the next generation of heroes start coming through.
Yes, bitch. Yes.
Now superheroes have been established in this universe.
Yes!
And people are used to them.
Yes!
Or as used to them as you can get, I guess. Yeah. And now the new lot are coming through.
Yeah. And Peter's leading that brigade.
Let's spoil the shit out of this shit.
Let's do it.
Go watch Homecoming if you haven't already. It's really good. It's really good, so go and watch it.
But from this point onwards... Spoilers, son!
So, it was Miles Morales all along.
Oh my god, I know, right?
No,
White Miles Morales.
That didn't happen.
There was a riot in our cinema.
I don't know, what...
Well, let's mention Miles Morales. So, Aaron Davis appears in the film, played by Don Cheadle. No, Donald Glover. No, played by Donald... Oh, what's his rap name? Childish Gambino.
I have no idea.
Glover. I was trying to put his rap name in the middle and then realised I don't know it properly, and it was a failed attempt.
Well, you made a tit out of yourself
Donald
there,
Glover was petitioned for Spider-Man around the time of Amazing, if I remember, because everyone was like, Miles Morales is cool, you should have Miles Morales Spider-Man, Donald Glover should play him. And even then, Donald Glover was like, I'm flattered, and I'd love to play a character like that, but I am also not a 13-year-old kid.
Yeah,
so...
I'm a little too old.
Yeah, however, they found a way to make that dream come true, because he voiced Miles Morales in the cartoon Ultimate Spider-Man series when Miles Morales rocked up in that. So he has got to play in that world. Now he's Miles' Uncle Aaron. The MCU is clearly a nice little amalgam when it comes to Spider-Man of the 616 and the Ultimate Spider-Man universe, because Aaron Davis is in it. His alias, according to his rap sheet, is the Prowler.
Mm-hmm.
And he's dealing in buying arms, not the big stuff. He wants the small, quiet stuff because he wants to basically make money. He's not about killing people. Yeah. We'll see if that changes later on.
His ears prick up when the guy mentions, "Oh, I've got something that can help you climb walls."
Yeah, and he's like, "Ooh, really?" It's like, okay. And also he mentions that, like, no, he doesn't want... He's happy to give Spider-Man the information about the sales stuff because he doesn't want that massive destructive shit in his neighborhood because I've got a nephew, you know? Yeah, we know! This movie's setting up already the Miles Morales story.
Yeah.
they're sowing the seeds now, because inevitably in 3 or 4 films' time, Tom Holland might go, I think I've done it now, like I'm happy. So they can go, right, well, instead of recasting, let's start with the next
Let's get
Spider-Man.
some miles.
Let's get the miles in.
Let's get some miles on the clock.
Gosh darn it.
Oh, yeah.
Beautifully set up. Let's talk about Karen.
Karen.
Which is Spidey's AI. When Ned hacks into the suit for Peter to remove the tracer so that Happy can't see that he's up to shenanigans while he's in Washington at the decathlon.
Yeah.
Ned finds out that there's a load of sub-programs and sub-routines in the suit, all underneath the training wheels protocol. So after he removes that, which is great, I love the fact that Stark's calling it, like, sort of patronising shit like that. He gets through the training wheels protocol, baby steps thingy and all this, and he removes it, and suddenly you realise Spider-Man's suit's got an AI like Iron Man's suit. Like, it has a full-blown AI, voiced by Jennifer Connelly, who Peter decides to name Karen. Because it's just a nice name. Like, he's going to call it Liz, and he's like, oh, no, that's creepy. What about Karen? So it becomes Karen. What a great idea. That basically it functions like a Stark suit.
Yeah.
Apart from,
And
it
also,
doesn't have armour and weapons in it, but it's got, like, 259 web settings. Including taser webs, like, sort of a silly string basic web. Like,
parachute.
Oh, God, what was it?
Recon drone in the
oh, yeah, just called Droney. What's the... What was it? The ballistic... It was a ballistic webs, whatever it's called. Basically, it's like, go to combat mode.
Rapid fire webs.
Rapid fire webs, like, installing instant kill. And his eyes just go tiny and red. He's like, no, I don't want to kill anybody. It's like, removing instant kill. And it's got rapid fire webs and everything, like the ricochet webs, web grenades, all sort of stuff that Peter in the comics does eventually kind of invent versions of.
I think it was... Some people have complained, like, oh, I don't want Spider-Man to be too techy. He's too techy. Well... Peter Parker is kind of a gadgeteer genius.
Yeah.
The
difference is he tends to invent the gadgets after he's found a reason to need it.
And certainly,
even in the old school comics, like he invents a better webbing when he fights Electro for the first time, so it can be insulated, and he puts more... Pardon me, he puts like more rubber in the suit.
But certainly in the...
If I remember correctly, in that initial Electro one, he wears like a crappy rubber version of his suit that looks shitty because it helps him defeat Electro.
Like a bomb suit.
Yeah, and then later on, like, he creates the spider armor. Have we all forgotten the spider armor from the 90s? Like the silver-looking reflective stuff? The Spider-Mobile.
The Spider-Mobile.
Like, temporary and stupid, and now used in really fun, nostalgic,
it can climb walls.
Interesting ways. Yes, it can. Why?
It can drive up walls.
So can he. So, but do you remember that time Iron Man needed a motorbike? No, because the toys sure think that's a thing.
Yeah, Iron Man's motorcycle.
But he does invent stuff to deal with relevant threats. And that's like he's done the spider tracers. He made the spider tracers because he realised it was a way to keep track of people. In this, it just happens that Stark's installed them in the suit. There's a freaking spider tracer in this movie. There was a spider tracer in the movie.
It's become much more of a thing in the comics recently with Dan Slott's run.
Yeah, well, the last 10 years
Labs and then starting up Parker Industries. Like he's become much more gadget heavy because I think both the character realises and Dan Slott realises as a writer, going, oh, this guy's actually a genius. So why not,
why wouldn't he invent a way to stop X,
why
Y,
would he not do this?
Yeah. So that was nice. I mean, there's also, subtle nods to, obviously, Superior Spider-Man. Octavius goes overboard with the technology. And there's even there's a tiny sort of reference to that in the film when Ned's asking him questions. He's like, can you summon an army of spiders? So, obviously, he's just asking about animals and stuff, but the first thing that came to my brain was like, ooh, like the little spider bots from Superior Spider-Man. Ah!
Spider bots
spooged everywhere and kicked out of the cinema. But,
it's alright, you came back.
Hey!
Hey!
Oh! Hey! Oh!
Oh?
That was not, oh man. The Origins sort of reference that I can't put May through that, everything she's been through. So it's like, okay, so they're referencing about, Uncle Ben being lost and everything.
Yeah.
And he says straight out to Ned that, he got the powers from being bitten by the spider. And Ned's like, can I get bitten by the spider? Oh, but then again, I have to be bitten by a spider.
Spider's dead, Ned.
I'd be worth it. And he goes, the spider's dead, Ned. Yeah, it's just they sum that up enough. I love his relationships with all the people in the area, his group.
The guy in the deli.
Friends, and the guy in the deli and his cat and everything. That got both times I've seen it. That got a big people pissing out loud moment in the cinema. Where the guy says "How's your aunt?" And he turns around the other cook and says in Italian she's a very hot Italian woman. Then Peter says in perfect Italian, "How's your daughter?" That's a kind of cockiness that I don't mind, because he's obviously doing it with a friend. Like, he's
Yeah,
not just being a dick to a stranger. Because then he's like, $10. The sandwich is $5. For that comment, 10. He's like, oh, come on, look, here's $5. Here's $5. I'm sorry. They goes over and gives the cat a tickle. And I was like, that's weird. And they take a moment to establish that there's a cat there. And then obviously later on it's like, oh yeah, because he saves it from the fire in the building.
Oh.
We know that Peter likes his sandwiches with extra pickles pressed really flat. So there is that.
It's just little details. He just has more character.
Yeah, there's more going on in that way. Like, and what's nice is you tell by the end of the movie, he realizes that I need to learn more about me and what I can do. And I've realized that wanting to be an Avenger, like, maybe one day, but right now I need to do this.
He doesn't get angsty. He's not angsty all the time.
No.
He has moments where he's like, oh, I want to play at the grown-up table. And blah, blah, blah.
Which is what you do when you're a teenager.
Yeah. Oh, she stopped treating me like a kid, he says as he's jumping on his bed and whining like a kid.
Yes.
It's like, oh, yes.
And by the end of the movie, he realises that I need to appreciate this time a bit more.
Yeah.
Like, I need to, like, training wheels, maybe that's not such a bad idea. Like, maybe I could stick to training wheels for a bit. Be a friendly neighbourhood Spider-Man, as Tony says, from a party somewhere in India.
Yeah.
Over Wi-Fi.
That's fucking brilliant.
As he sends the remote suit to save Peter.
So good.
Remote controlled. Oh god, because that was beautiful as well. The trailers, obviously, you knew from the trailers there was going to be a conversation between Stark and Peter on that roof after the Staten Island ferry. But it's really nice when he says, like, I mean, if you cared enough, you'd be here, and the suit just opens and Tony steps out of it. And it's like, oh fuck, he's there. Like, he is there. Like, Peter has to eat his words now, because Tony is there. And I love how Tony wasn't soft on him.
No,
he wasn't soft on him. He says,
he opens up on him.
He says to me, like, I can't remember what Peter says, like, he tries to correct Tony or something, and Tony just goes, no, this is where the grown-ups are talking.
Mm-hmm.
And Peter sort of realises the severity of the situation, but then, you know, prom's going to happen, and he lightens up, and he's finally excited again, and then gets smacked in the face by the scariest freaking moment in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, shall we? So, Liz. We all went into this movie assuming Liz is Liz Allen. Yeah. Of course it's Liz Allen, Peter's high school friend, who, you know, is sometimes crushed based on the different versions, and sometimes a hilarious, like, Hispanic kid played for laughs in Spectacular Spider-Man animated series. And, like, Liz, great character. We love Liz. Like, she gets a bit screwed with later in her life, but, you know, we love Liz.
We love Liz.
Yeah, ain't Liz Allen. Or it is Allen, but she's not going by that surname yet. Adrian Toomes is her dad.
Yeah.
We spend the whole movie going, well, you know, the Vulture's doing what he's doing for his family, but we never see the family, and it doesn't really cross you. At first you think, oh, you know, it'd be nice to see the family. And then you kind of forget about it.
He mentions the
call from your wife's called again, like she wants to know when you're back from this job, and you know, you forget about it. And you also assume, you spend a lot of the movie assuming that his secret base and all that, where all they're making the weapons, is in New York. Nah, they're closer to Washington. They just tend to operate in New York more often, as you find out later. But like, you assume, you know, you forget about the family thing. And then you meet Liz's father when Peter comes to pick her up for homecoming. And it's Adrian Toomes. And what follows is kind of, I mean, it's scary, but it's also funny. The way Tom Holland is just clearly, like, frozen in fear for about 2 minutes. Because this has never happened to this Spider-Man. He's never met a scary monster villain bad guy and then been in the same room as them. And I don't think we've ever seen it like this before, either, have we, in any of the movies?
The closest we've got is the Thanksgiving dinner in the first one.
But Peter doesn't know that Norman's the Goblin.
No.
We know that Peter's Spider-Man, and we see Norman figure it out. That's a wonderful scene, a really memorable scene from that first one.
But in this one, what happens is
he got clipped by a bike messenger.
Knocked me down. You see, so Peter goes in, you see the impact of Peter realising that that's the Vulture.
And also, you're like, this is really weird because it's not being played as villain meeting the hero. It's being played as terrified child knows he's in the vicinity of a dangerous man who wants to hurt him. Not only that, Keaton's playing it, as he would do in that scene, as just an awkward dad with dad jokes and the usual stuff about, like, oh, well, you know, you're taking my daughter to prom, like, what are your prospects? And all that, like, all that's happening. But as the conversation in the car develops,
and you don't do anything.
You don't see that Peter can see him figuring it out.
Yeah.
Because once the cogs and the wheels start to turn in Adrian Toomes' brain, he's faced away from them the entire time. And there's a really nice device, and I noticed it in the second one, when they stop at the stoplight as he sort of puts the final pieces together, saying, like, it's a good job your old buddy Spider-Man, like, was there in Washington, I bet you were terrified. And Peter has to say, like, well, I wasn't because obviously Liz is there, she could contradict him.
Yeah.
I wasn't in the elevator. I was outside, and it's like confirming that, oh, fucking funny that, isn't it? That Spider-Man's always there, isn't it? Spider-Man is always there, and you weren't being saved by him, but you were outside. The light on his face, because obviously this traffic light is red. It switches back to amber as it finally sets in, and then the moment you realise Toombs is like, right, I know I'm gonna have to say something, is when the green light hits. Which is nice, because obviously in the comics, that's the colour usually associated with the Vulture.
There was a bit of green in his costume.
There's a bit of it there, like in the eyes and stuff, and some in the lining, and the armour's sort of got like a greenish tinge that, like, you know, some metals do when they're being stored away in a damp space and everything. But like, it's just the fact that moment, the light on his face is just green, it's like, holy shit, the Vulture and Spider-Man are sat in a car together. And the Vulture knows who Spider-Man is. This is frightening. And then you get a lovely moment where he says, like, oh, I'm just going to give Peter the talk. And he isn't playing it like he's going, I'm just going to give him the talk. Like, he's playing it completely natural and as natural as he can to make his daughter feel fine. And then Liz gets out the car and Adrian just picks up a fucking gun out of the glove compartment. Doesn't even point it at Peter.
No.
But just lets him know that he's picked up something dangerous. I don't think he shows it to him.
No, he's holding it behind the front seat.
You can tell Peter knows something's up.
Yeah. Well, it's got spider sense.
It's got spider sense. And he basically says to him, like, look, I'm doing what I'm doing for my family. It's about protecting them. So family means a lot to me. And you saved my daughter's life. And I won't forget that. So I'm giving you one chance as a thank you for saving my daughter. You go in there. You go to homecoming. You have a great night. You forget this conversation ever happened. And you leave me to my business. And for the first time in a while, it's a 15-year-old kid being dealt a real dangerous blow.
Oh, yeah.
They up the peril even more later when he collapses the warehouse around Peter.
You get that Spider-Man has to live the heavy thing moment.
But it works so well.
What works about it so well is that initially his sheer panic.
He's a child.
Yeah.
That is the first scene in the movie where they just blatantly go, this is a child.
Yeah.
Like, he's a teenager, he's a kid, yes. But in this moment, it's like, oh my god, this is a young boy.
He's 15 years old.
What the hell is happening? And he's genuinely panicked. He's terrified. And everyone in the cinema was just like, oh no.
Such a great moment.
It's just great. And the fact that he overcomes it because he's just thinking about Tony, it's sort of like this movie's take on with great power. Like, if they'd have casted Uncle Ben, that would have been the moment where you would have heard the voiceover. But like, Tony saying, like, if you're nothing with the suit, like, if you say you're nothing with the suit,
if you're nothing without the suit, then you shouldn't have it.
Then you shouldn't have it. And he realises, like, you're right, like, this is, I'm more than all that shit. Like, why am I trying to prove myself? Like,
I'm super strong.
I'm super strong. I can do this. But I like, you get the half face moment for the first time in one of the movies proper, like, with his makeshift crappy mask in the puddle and his reflection.
I love the makeshift costume.
I like it too. I think it's really cool. It's a nice take on because obviously the other movies have done a version of it, sort of, wrestling suit for the Raimi one, and the him fighting the trying to find the mugger and stuff in Amazing. Like, he's dressed in black and he's got a woolly hat on, but he's got a red like balaclava with sunglasses on underneath it. So they both had a version of like a proto suit, but this one's really cool because it's obviously this is his superhero outfit. This is it until Stark gives him a cooler one.
It's just a colour swapped Ben Riley.
It is, because it's a hoodie top and everything. Yeah. And I like the goggles, the idea that he sort of uses them as a focus, like which they say in Civil War. Let's touch on a few things because I want to get to the emails for too long, but just a few little spoilery things. All the stuff being taken out of the Avengers Tower, it mentions that they're taking the Hulkbuster armour and a prototype shield for Captain America, so obviously Tony was working on new tech for Cap before Civil War, and an emergency Thor's magic belt. It's like, okay.
First time it's been mentioned, and like, I have no idea how to pronounce it.
Yeah. It's the way that they do it. It's just kind of, screw it, we're never going to try.
Megungier or something like that.
There's some, apparently I'm not as savvy on it, but apparently there's some tech from Agent Carter in the plane sequence.
They mentioned a black hole grenade.
That's it, yeah, they're selling them in the van,
And which is we see something similar in Season 2 of Agent Carter.
Ah, so there we are. There it is. We've got, what else? We've got 2 versions of the Shocker. Turns out the first one isn't Herman Schultz, it's the Montana version.
Yep.
And then the second one's Herman Schultz. It's like, okay, so the Shocker is in the movie. Christ, what else? The Captain America PSAs, like the
Oh, they're so good.
they're brilliant.
They're so good.
Especially like, my friend, like indicates to the right of the TV. Your
It's
teacher,
on the
on the left. And then they come out the back and he goes, okay, so there it is. Pretty sure that guy's a war criminal now, but government says we got to show these, so whatever.
The detention one.
The detention,
is fucking awesome.
So, you screwed up, like turns a chair around and sits on it backwards.
Screwed up. You got detained.
God.
And it's clearly...
And he's in the Avengers suit, so
Yeah.
it's after the events of the Avengers. It's like he's done some public service stuff, because of course he's back in the public eye. The public by this point know Captain America is back. And it's like, okay, that's kind of cool.
Taken from a guy who's been frozen for 65 years.
It isn't cool. It isn't cool. Just like, oh my God. And which leads us beautifully into the post-credits stuff.
Oh man! Well, the first one is very.
The mid-credits one's quite nice. It's they've sort of got to the point now with the post-credits where they're not necessarily teasing an upcoming movie. They're teasing like, oh, a character beat. Like, okay.
Although I
enough.
think they may also be setting up.
Yeah, well,
the
the last arms deal is with Matt Gargan.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
He is named in this movie.
He is named in the movie. I
See,
think Mr. Sunday and a couple of others missed it.
Yeah,
I said
I've
does he get named? Yeah, he's definitely named.
I had that conversation with my girlfriend when we saw it. It was like, she's adamant that you never hear his name.
No, early on they say like, they're like, we're not going to meet quota unless we still know the batch. Like, we've got only one more arranged. It was like, we've got the Gargan deal, right? Yeah. And then when Karen's assessing the criminals there, she says, what's it? That's a career criminal, Matt Gargan, and his name comes up on the screen. So he is named, but also he's got the whacking big scorpion tattoo on his neck. He's a bit more, like we've said it before, weren't we? He's a bit more like the Matt Gargan from sort of the Venom era, Dark Reign style. Like he's a psycho. He's not a private eye who's forced into a horrible situation. He's a violent criminal now. But then in the prison, the big scar on his eye from the car hitting him and knocking him into the water looks a bit like the eye mask shape from the 60s, which is nice. Which I really like. More prominent, I think it's more prominent in the 90s animated series. It's got like the sort of the Deadpool-like eye design, which is cool. But then so that's nice because he's like, some of my guys heard a rumour that you know who Spider-Man is. Because he's basically saying, I know people on the outside who'll kill him for us to get revenge. And the rumour is you know who he is. And he says, if I know who he is, he'd be dead already. And it's nice because it's basically Adrian Toomes going, I'm not going to murder this child because I don't have to. Like, I'm already in prison. What's the point? And he saved my daughter, so I'm doing him a solid and keeping his identity secret.
Maybe he wants to get back at Peter himself.
Maybe later. Maybe it's information that might prove valuable when he's teamed up with, say, 5 other dudes.
Yeah.
Who knows? But also then that post-credits teaser. Brilliant. The whole cinema is sat there waiting.
Fucking so good.
And then up pops a cat PSA.
So good.
He says, like whether it's in high school or, being a soldier at war, one of the most important virtues we can have is patience. Sometimes, like, patience, like, may not feel like it's paid off. It may feel like you've worked hard or waited a real long time for something that isn't quite worth it. And then he sort of catches himself realising, like, and he looks off camera and he goes, how many more of these? And then they give you at least a tiny payoff because everything's saying Spider-Man will return.
Yeah.
So for those who maybe don't follow movie news, they're like, oh cool, we are going to get more, okay. But it's just like, oh my god, they've got to the point where they're trolling the audience.
It's so good.
It's the second film to just full on troll the audience as well, because the first one was Guardians 1.
Yeah,
which is like, here's Howard the Duck. It's like, wait, what? We're not going to develop the story further, but here's Howard the Duck. So that's, I mean, that's
and I think it's only fair play after we got 3 in Guardians Volume 2.
5. We got 5.
The 5?
5 of them, yeah. There was,
oh god,
there was
the original Guardians.
Guardians, Teenage Groot, getting all angsty.
Teenage Groot.
Adam Warlock.
Adam Warlock reveal.
The Stanley explanation.
Oh, the Watchers.
And, Sean Gunn's character testing out a film.
Oh god. I forgot.
That was like at the start of the end credits after the main names, though, so that one sort of...
Yeah.
it slips in and out. But yeah, oh god, we'll talk about this a bit next week. But this week I read an article on the all the Easter eggs people have found so far at Disneyland's California Adventures, Guardians Mission Breakout.
Oh, okay.
The ride that's replaced Tower of Terror.
Yeah.
Good lord. Like, so many Easter eggs, some to things that have happened in Agent Carter, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., some of the movies so far, a couple which they've not named them, but they've said there are a few things in here which may or may not actually have something to do with an upcoming movie. You just won't realise it until the movie's out.
Oh, okay.
But not only that, prominently on display in the queue area and everything, like in one, because it's set in a collector's mansion, so like a new facility for the collector, which is in the background of a Thor Ragnarok shot. You know, when Goldblum's like, "Well, you brought me, there's buildings behind you." One of them's the collector's mansion that's at DCA right now. But one of the things is Stormbreaker. Just says ancient Asgardian hammer, unknown origin, currently found during like a scavenge on a comet. Still trying to figure out where it's from or whatever. And it's like, wait. Is Beta Ray Bill in the MCU?
I really hope
Beta Ray Bill out there. So that's quite cool.
Give me that horse-faced motherfucker!
There's an Ultron drone half an Ultron drone in a cabinet that occasionally twitches. Stuff like that. But yes, so like with this, there's no big tag or anything saying, this is to do with the rest of the movies, this is to do with the upcoming movies. All you really get in this as a tag is, Spidey's very much part of this world now, and Stark is more than happy to call on him if he needs him. Because he almost becomes an Avenger at the end of the movie. Stark just goes like, yeah, screw it. Here's an Iron Spider-Man armour. This is not like a...
Which I thought was ugly as sin, by the way. So
yeah, well, it was like when they make a chrome, shiny version of an action figure as part of the set. And it sort of looked a bit like, because the darker colours, a bit like Miles' suit meets an Iron Spider suit.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was still kind of cool. Like, it was like, oh, that's awesome. He's made him a full-blown armour.
Very cruel.
And then you find, like, Peter thinks that the whole thing was a test, that they weren't going to do a public announcement. He just wanted a test. And he's like, yeah, sure. And off he goes. And then freaking Gwyneth Paltrow pops back in for a cameo. Pepper Potts appears and he's like, we've got, like, 50 journalists out there. Like, what... Have you got the kid? Like, where's the kid? Are we going to unveil the new Avenger? It's like, oh, shit, no. So they're just going to, like, basically get engaged on stage instead.
And also, clearly, Pepper Potts has got back together with Tony Stark.
After Civil War suggests that they're having a difficult period after the events of Iron Man 3, and it's like, oh, man. Well, Age of Ultron, I imagine, specifically would have been the nail in the coffin for them, too. Him creating a world-destroying robot. But yeah, times there are changing. The timeline, however, is confused as fuck, but we'll get to that another time. We really dug it. Obviously, if you listen to these spoilers, you saw it, so...
Let us know what you think about Spider-Man Homecoming.
Let us know in the emails. And next a week.
Speaking
of emails, let's do a few emails.
Yeah. Oh, well, first we've got a quick one from Twitter.
Hi, Twitter.
From Daniel Potter at Lego Book 1 on Twitter.
Hey!
Quick question. What are your thoughts on steelbook editions of movies?
Ooh, pretty. They're just the discs in a better case.
Yeah, pretty much.
I know some people who collect them, and I'm like, how can you afford it? Because sometimes they're like exclusive to Zavvi and HMV and Amazon.
I picked up. Actually, my girlfriend picked up the Mummy trilogy on DVD in a steelbook for £3 from CEX.
Shut up! Seriously?
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Is that Blu-ray?
No, it's DVD.
DVD, but even so, 3 movies in a steelbook DVD. Bloody hell!
Yeah,
that's not bad at all.
Although you do have to get Tomb of the Dragon Emperor, so.
Yeah.
Which I've still not seen, so I suppose we should dive into that.
Oh, that's a tale for a bargain bin.
I think so.
So I recently bought Series 2 of Doctor Who, the Steelbook versions they've started putting out.
Yeah,
mostly because it's Blu-ray of the DVD modern series that I don't have on a Blu-ray version for a relatively cheap Steelbook price, and also they just look pretty. I was just going to get Series 1, and then Series 1 sold so well they got Series 2 out quicker than they were obviously planning.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, hang on. It's cheaper now that already this past week it's gone up since I bought it for like $7.99. So I'm glad I got it when I got it.
That's real cheap.
They're really pretty.
Yeah.
Like the full price was £25.
Okay.
But that's a 3-disc Blu-ray season of a TV show in a steelbook.
Shit, yeah.
So yeah, and they're also more compact than they have been before, and they look good. We watched some Series 1 on the Blu-ray upscale. It looks quite nice.
See, I won't search out a steelbook, but I ain't gonna say no if one comes my way. I used to have a steelbook version of Devil May Cry 4 for the PS3.
Yeah.
That was quite nice.
They do look pretty. When they look pretty, they look pretty.
I had a steelbook. Not a steelbook, I had a tin Gears of War 2.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
No. Steelbook Gears of War 2, tin Gears of War 1.
Yeah, I remember when they did like the tin edition.
Yeah,
so there's just massive fucking versions
really
of the
nice.
box with all these extra... Usually like art cards and like badges and things like that. Just these extra little treats.
And a steelbook Halo 3, I think, as well.
You got Steelbook
Yeah,
Halo
I
3.
had the collector's edition of Halo 3. But yeah, I don't want to stick them out, but they are quite nice. I might look into it. I might look into getting some more. Right, let's get into these emails. We can get through these 3, that's fine.
Emails, go through the emails.
Chris Warner has got in touch with us and says, "Hello, big damn true believers. Whilst I'm aware that this is Spider Month, a piece of news came to my attention that I'd figured you'd want to chime in on, if you haven't already. Apparently, Clara is confirmed to return in the Christmas special. While she was Peter's main companion and technically met the first Doctor, what's your opinion on this news, and what will the plot need her to be this time? Thanks, and I'm looking forward to hearing your responses and seeing what Spider-Month has in store. By the way, love the Cadicarus cameo. Thanks once again, Chris Warner. Thanks for getting in touch, Chris. Glad you're enjoying Spider-Month and all bits and pieces.
Spider-Man, baby.
Clara.
Yeah, there's some set photo. Well, apparently someone announced it on Radio 2 or whatever. Just mentioned that she's in it. Then a set photo seems to have leaked of what looks like her on site. Plus, someone says they've seen her in Cardiff.
I would expect there to be some appearance from her in some form as part of this regeneration. So,
Which is
whatever.
a shame, because the Regenerations all don't have to do that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I kind of didn't mind
It's become traditional.
the 11th Doctor hallucinating Amy, but I think it would have been better and more effective, although, to be fair, she was older at this point, so it'd be hard to sell it. It would have been a bit more effective to see Amelia in that moment, just like little young Amy, because the first face this face ever saw, all that sort of stuff. I don't like, because again, the rumour extends to not only Clara, but Bill and Nardole popping up in some way. Now, I'll tell you this, for Nout, considering it's Christmas, if they were doing some kind of Ghost of Christmas Past, Present and Future sort of thing, maybe?
Oh, yeah, that'd be neat.
Then that'd be neat, because then they're not really in it, but it's all part of the whatever. But at the same time, it can't be hallucination, because unless it's a shared hallucination, and his first incarnation's gotten high as balls, you can see him as well. I'm not sure how that'll work.
We'll see.
I don't know.
We'll see how it plays out.
I'm just like, ugh. Her being in the finale, in the Christmas special, just makes me wish even more that we'd move on to the next era.
Yes. Yes, please. Tom Monty!
Tom Monty! Move your body real close to the keyboard and type an email.
Dearest Chris and Matt, due to the fact that there was no time for the email section last week, my previous email has sort of been made redundant due to the fact that it focused heavily on episode 11 of Doctor Who and speculation about episode 12. Oh well.
No, don't worry, Tom. We got to it, albeit slightly late.
I hope you both enjoyed the finale. I certainly did. I particularly enjoyed Capaldi's final moments in the TARDIS where he said he can't keep being somebody else. That made me tear up a bit, and I loved the way Pete said no when his hands started glowing. Pete's hair and the music was brilliant. This two-part
His hair and the music.
It was brilliant. The music was...
He's got a lovely buffon, but his
the
hair.
music was okay. The music was okay. Where am I to? The two-parter soundtrack stood out to me. The operatic tunes and also the trumpets at the end when Dave Bradley came out of the snow.
Old Dave Bradley. Yeah, spoiler alert for Doctor Who last week if you haven't watched it.
Oh, well.
Dave Bradley.
Tough shit. It's been spoiled for you. That's not much of a spoiler. Like, it's him. It's that guy.
David Bradley.
He's that guy.
He's tinsel on a tree.
It's a shame Moffat's, in my opinion, best finale was his last. What did you think of John Sims' contribution to this two-parter? Do you think he was underplayed?
I thought it was alright.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed... It
didn't set my world on fire.
It's a shame that his character had such a definitive ending with the end of time, because had there been another Master in between, maybe, it probably would have worked better for me.
Yeah.
Because like, I will never stand with the Doctor, he says, even though the last thing we saw him doing was standing with the Doctor.
Yeah.
It just seems really odd. Although I will say, their joint death is a great idea. Like, she's like, do you know what? I think we're finally changing our tune. We're redeemed. So he kills her.
Yeah.
To make sure that never happens after she's killed him. Like, or, stabbed him and he's bleeding out. Like, that was cool. It will only really be effective if the Master never comes back.
Which we know he will, because he always bloody does.
Like, it'd only be effective if they didn't come back, because, of course, the idea is that, oh god, the Doctor will never know that she did change sides. She fought on his side at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the last thing she ever did. Like, that would be a perfect ending for the character. But yeah, I don't know. I imagine Chibnall doesn't have any desire to immediately bring that character back, but, like, later down the line, someone might do something with them.
Yeah.
I thought they were kind of wasted in that, oh my god, big reveal, the Master, and then he's just kind of there. My favourite thing about the finale was just the idea that they didn't reverse really until the end in a way, Bill being a Cyberman. They didn't make it so that it was like, oh yeah, you can be undone as a Cyberman like that. Because even at the end, she wasn't saved. She was changed into something else.
Yeah.
So it's like, fair enough. But like, I like the narrative device. I think it was Paul Mackey's best performance in the series.
I thought Paul Mackey was great.
And the way the actors subtly reacted to her, like when we could see her on screen, the rest of them were all still acting as though they were with this metal creature.
Yeah.
Like pacing-wise and stuff, they played it slightly differently, because you have to. Because obviously she's saying like, what's happened to me? What really would be happening is, what has happened to me? So obviously they couldn't leave massive gaps, but, it was performance-wise, it was one of the stronger episodes of the series. How did you feel about him being reluctant to regenerate? I didn't get it.
I didn't get it.
I think it's almost because they've gone... I think Stephen said since, like, the 10th Doctor didn't want to regenerate. Let's explore that a bit more. It's like, no, the 10th Doctor didn't want to regenerate because he was a selfish, like, hero type.
Yeah.
He was like, no, I'm a spoiled brat, I want to be me forever. Like, that was him. Why? What? No. And then Stephen retconned it, so that the reason he didn't want to change is because he didn't want to go to Trenzalore. I don't want to go has a different meaning after Day of the Doctor.
Whatever. Whatever.
No.
Do you think the Master is now dead? If not, how many years do you think it will be till she comes back?
I hope not. I hope that's it.
I hope that's it, but it won't be, and they'll be back at some point. Whenever a writer feels like using them, they'll be back. So it could be tomorrow. Who knows?
I think the only way you could get away with it is if it's a prior incarnation we didn't know about, or if it is the next incarnation, but like they have no recollection of what happened to them.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? Like then you could make it work, but I don't know.
How did you feel about Bill's exit? One thing I noticed is how Pete didn't seem to question where she was after he woke up, unless he was conscious during all the kissing and stuff.
I think he's just
generally confused. I don't
yeah,
think he knows
like
what's going on.
he started regenerating, from the lethal hug, I guess.
Mm.
That's the regeneration began. Like his body started to repair itself, and then him getting shot by the Cyberman, that began the regeneration.
Yeah.
But Missy early in the series is like, she can sense something's wrong with him. So it's like, wait, was he already regenerating?
Yeah, I think he must have been.
What the hell is it? They don't make it clear.
They
never will
nothing
do.
has been made clear. Nardole made me feel very sad this episode. Do you guys think he's gone for good? Probably.
Again, I think it would be sensible to not carry the story on for that character, because it's quite a nice exit. Like, he sort of accepts that his friend's going to sacrifice himself, and he's like, no, I'll do it. Like, I'll do it. The Doctor's like, no, I've got it. Listen to there, and Nardole just goes, fine. And I love the fact that he's like, I'm going to name a town after you. A really rubbish one. And a goat, or something like that. Like, yeah, I can't remember what he said, but, he sort of basically says, like, oh, God, like, fine, go be the hero, whatever. Because also, Nardole's story's not over. They're not safe. Eventually, the Cybermen will, like, the old school ones, will find a way to work up to the next floor that they can get to.
Yeah.
It's now just a case of a little race against time. Like, they will travel some floors at a time, and then they'll settle for a while, and they'll travel some floors, and then they'll settle. So maybe they'll get out, maybe they won't. But I think that's an open-ended story. Leave it as it is. The same way, like, Jack coming back to life at the end of Parting the Ways was like, oh my god, I wonder what happens now. Like, later on, we find out sort of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, I think Nana will leave it be. That's a really cool, interesting place to leave that character's story. And it also means Series 10 has this special little thing of, oh, Series 10, the year with Bill and Nardole.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like it used to be, where it was like, oh yeah, the year with the 9th Doctor. Oh yeah, the year with Rose and the 10th Doctor. Oh, the year with Martha. Oh, the year with Donna. Like, it'd be nice to go back to that kind of vibe.
Are you both excited for Christmas now?
Oh god, it's Tom Monty.
What direction do you think it's headed in terms of story? What do you think the title will be called?
I
I've no idea.
I hope it
where
doesn't
it's
have the
headed.
word Doctor in the title.
It probably will do. It'll be some kind of play on multiple Doctors. I don't know what the title will be. I'm excited for it. I'm curious. I'm not excited.
Curious. I think that's the best way to describe it. I'm curious. This felt like a better ending for his character. It wasn't a big spectacle.
Yeah.
It was quite personal and quiet because it all was happening on one floor of a spaceship, and it wasn't the fate of the galaxy. It was just the fate of that small group of people. That would have been a lot more. That would have been a lot different from what we've seen in recent years, and that would have been quite cool. Because again, you're like, okay, you could say the same thing happened with Trenzalore and the Town of Christmas, but no, he wasn't just defending that. He wasn't just defending that town. He was defending Gallifrey and this and the other. So, there are ways to do it, and that would have been interesting. I don't know. Let's see how it goes. I just don't want Steven sticking his oar in again.
He's gonna stick it in.
With something from early because. You'll probably know this a bit better than I do, because you somehow miraculously have a copy of 10th Planet Episode 4. But, oh God. You're gonna give it back to the BBC at any point?
They found it, didn't they?
No, not all, there's bits of it, and it's really grainy as fudge. Because if you watch it...
I thought that's why they released it on DVD.
No, they've retconned,
animated
and stills with audio.
Oh, okay.
They've got all the audio and everything. But, I'm worrying that this is that bit with him, like Ben and Polly, isn't it, at that point? Back at the TARDIS, and he's heading back to the TARDIS. And I'm worried that, 'cause when he said, no change, I don't wish to change, no, it's him on the way to his regeneration.
Yeah.
So you're about to tell me that he's going to have a whole other adventure during his regeneration? Because of course they will, because they'll be like, yeah, because both of them are technically about to change. And for him it's for the first time, and for him it's for the first time when they're not wanting to, even though we've seen that before. I'm curious, but... I'm kind of dreading it.
George.
I'm kind of dreading it. I just want to know who the next one is and when can that series start. Wellity.
No, Doctor Who for 6 whole months.
Wait a minute. Tom Monty. What is that?
Do you think number 13's actor will be kept a secret until the big day? Have a lovely week, Tom Monty.
Tom Monty this week was played by Tim Curry. I wish for once we wouldn't find out until the broadcast.
Yeah, I'd love them to keep it a secret. Whether they'll be able to, whether
the only way that works,
fans inverted commas will let them.
The only way that would work is if it was a big name that we recognise, because then we'd all go, "Oh shit, they're playing them!" Or if it was a big change finally, if it was an actor of colour or a female actor. That would be the only way that keeping it secret.
Chris Marshall.
No, that's the only way. That's the only way that keeping it secret would be.
That's all we deserve.
Would be an event on the night. If it was a name or someone now very physically different from the usual style of the casting.
Yeah, Chris Marshall.
However, if it was an unknown actor he's
the most unique actor to play Doctor
If
Who.
it was yet another white male actor but an unknown one, I think you have to.
Yeah, so Chris Marshall.
I think you. Phoenix is going to love you. I think if it was a white male unknown actor, you'd have to announce who they were ahead of it for people to be remotely fussed. Do you know what I mean? That's what they did with Matt Smith. They gave us a year to process that it was this unknown.
With a head like a kidney bean.
So we just, So by the time that episode came out, we'd be like, oh, and here's where Matt Smith first appears. We're going to see it.
Matt Smith with your face like a removed kidney.
Matt Smith with your face like a pensioner's recollection. Matt Smith with your jaw like a welder's friend.
We've got one last very important email.
Matt Smith with your ears like a streamlined glider.
Lewis Christian.
Will we endorse
says
his
hi.
views? Hi, baby!
I'm just emailing to say hi, because I haven't checked in with you guys for a while. I hope you're doing well.
No, we both died.
Tally-ho. Pip-pip.
Did he just email in to check in on us?
Yeah.
That's very sweet.
And let me tell you how we've been doing, Lewis Christian. We've been crashing it up.
Oh.
With Crash Bandicoot.
Wait, are we slipping in a review or...
Insane Trilogy.
No, hang on.
And if you're stuck, I've got some codes for Crash Bandicoot that will help you.
No, we got through this.
All the way. You brought me back to this, Christopher.
Okay.
I was out, and you got me hooked again. So now
Just-
you're gonna
just
fucking
when-
sit there
just when
and listen to me tell you.
Just when we
the
thought he was out,
codes
I pulled him
Crash
back in.
Bandicoot, right? So fucking sit there and take this like a man, right?
It's the Godfather
Crash
3.
Bandicoot
cheat codes.
super password.
Oh, fuck.
Right, on the main menu,
Yeah.
enter the password screen. You'll notice that there is only one line. Don't fret, because as soon as you enter the first 2 triangles, it will expand to 3.
Oh, God.
It gives access to any level,
Oh, God.
100% complete score,
What?
both keys,
Yeah.
and all gems.
But if I remember correctly, you can't save.
Shut up.
Okay.
I'm telling you the code now,
Okay.
so you shut your damn mouth.
Okay.
Triangle, 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 cross, square, triangle, triangle, triangle,
If
triangle.
you'd like to get in
square,
touch during the
X,
week,
Triangle, circle, triangle,
bigdamcontact@gmail.com is how you can email us. Let us know what you thought of Spider-Man
Get away
Homecoming.
from that fucking microphone, Christopher. I will shove this cheat book up your ass so far you will be able to taste it on your back teeth.
If you want to tweet us, it's at BigDamnCast.
Right.
And also, we'll be back next week. Got a new Big Damn Love coming out in a couple of days, all about Spider-Man from Matt. And then
Put it in this plastic
some more spider
sheet.
treats this Big Damn Spider Month.
Come on, can't just...
We'll hear from you next week.
No lube. Let's go. We're going straight up.
What?
Ready? 1,
Wait, what are you doing with...
2,
You...
3. Oh, up to the elbow already. Jesus. God, it's like puppeteering.